I'm Councilmember Weezar, and we will begin with item number 1, report from the Director of Planning, Mr. Vince Bertoni.
Thank you, Chair Weezar. I have no report, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. So we will receive and file item number 1. We will now turn to the multiple item speaker cards. This section is an opportunity for those individuals who have signed up to speak for 2 or more items. They have an opportunity to speak here. We do have 2 items that are related, and those are items number 8 and 9. So have we accounted for that in our multiple item card section, City Clerk?
Yes, because they're related, they're treated like one item, so they would satisfy the if they're signing up just for those 2 items, that would be considered one item. But if they're included with other items, then they would be the multiple comment.
Okay,
section.
And so as of right now, they could speak at that time. Okay, but I have here. If we go to multiple items, who are the speakers for that? So I see some speakers here who may be speaking on those items.
That's 8 and 9. So
Okay.
Wayne, then Herman,
And Aviv, or Akili.
no, Aviv.
Aviv, okay. So Wayne, our usuals, Wayne, Herman, our 2 usuals. Not here? Okay, they are not here. Oh, Herman's here. Oh, here he is. Okay.
Oh, our 2 minutes of bunching. Look at this. 16 items. 2 minutes to talk on all of them. See that? So, item 1, fuck you. The Director of Planning report never has a fucking report. Number 2, fuck number 2. 3, fuck number 3. Don't care about it. 4 and 5, again, not relevant. 6, we don't care. You've destroyed Warner Center. You know you've destroyed Warner Center. It looks like fucking shit when you go through Warner Center now. Used to be a beautiful green belt. No more. Thank you, Marquise Harris Dawson, for turning CD3 into a nigger wasteland. Now, CD11, that's what it is. That's what these Uncle Toms do. This is what he does. See that? You put them in a suit and tie, and they sell the community out. They do it with the whites. They do it with the Koreans. They do it with the Mexicans. They do it with the Central Americans. And back to the Jews. They're only here to sell you out. They don't give a goddamn fuck about you or your affordable housing. They're here to grease the pockets of
Wayne,
developers.
can you hold this time, please? Wayne, if you could hold on, please.
That's what you do.
Wayne, can you listen, please?
Prostitute.
For those of you who are here for the first time, this gentleman, along with the person who comes after him, come here to every meeting, every council meeting, and unfortunately, we've been advised by the city attorney's office that they have broad latitude to express themselves under the First Amendment. So I do want to note, however, we apologize if any language that's been used has offended you. But I do want to tell Wayne that you have to speak on items on the agenda. Half your time you have not spoken on any item on the agenda. You have to speak on items on the agenda. Otherwise, we're going to have to ask you to leave this meeting. Thank you.
Agenda is projects. The whole agenda is projects by developers who grease your fucking palms to build this overpriced garbage. That's all it is every week. That's all it is. They go ahead and they lie and they tell you you have a right to a hearing. You don't get a hearing. Every project today will be approved.
Wayne,
no
this is
matter
not
what.
public comment. You are supposed to speak to
Everything.
items on the agenda
And
that you signed up for.
that's what I do in your
Thank you. Your
bullshit
time is
hearing.
up. Your time is up,
I
Wayne.
talked about the fucking items. That's
Your time
why.
is up, Wayne.
You people are
Wayne,
thieves.
can you remove this gentleman from this meeting, please? I keep asking him to stop speaking, and he keeps speaking. We're asking you to be removed from this meeting. You're being obstructionist. Thank you very much.
Kevin, these are two separate things?
For the same item.
But they're for the same item. Okay.
Herman, your clock has started. Thank you.
So start the fucking clock. For the fucking director of planning, oral fucking status for the fucking report relative to the fucking ongoing development like Seabreeze. Denying the fucking public the right to housing. Seabreeze. The right to planning policies and work programs, operations, and other terms of interest, unconstitutional housing. Fuck you. Item number 2, you stupid motherfuckers, is that relative to the introducing the Los Angeles fucking Department of fucking Building and Safety for the fucking Building and Safety in Constitution of the Los Angeles Fire. In addition to that, on item fucking 11, for the fucking report from CD fucking 14 and the fucking asshole Samuel de Leon and the Seabreeze development. I declare mitigated fucking negative declaration for mitigation for fucking demolition. I am the fucking demolition man here in declaration for mitigation to development. Tear down all these fucking slum damn fucking warehouses and build. Pushed us motherfuckers out of this city so that you can have affordable housing. You will not find affordable housing. You will not get affordable housing. Fucking broken promises like Seabreeze in San Pedro and the port of CD15. Fuck Joe Busquiano.
Herman, you're not speaking to any item.
12, CD14. Fuck the politician from that council district, Jose Huizar. Fuck you.
Aviv Kleinman, you signed up for more than one item on the agenda? Not here. Okay. You are here. Okay.
I would just like to speak regarding the item about fire sprinklers and also the remodel. My name is Aviv Kleiman. I'm the planning deputy for Councilmember Koretz's office.
Okay, so you signed up to speak on. We'll get to those items. As a planning deputy, you will have an opportunity to speak on those items. Okay, great. Thank you. Unless we have them on consent. So, do you wish to speak on them if they're on consent? No. Okay. So we have completed the multiple item speaker cards. We will now move on to the consent calendar. Item number 2 was on consent. We have one speaker, which was Aviv. So if it's on consent, you waive. Okay. We'll approve item number 2 without objection. Item number 3. Aviv, so you waive your right on that, right? Okay, we will approve that item on consent without objection. And for the record, we've been joined by Councilmember Price as well. And Councilmember Harris-Dawson. Item number 4, no public speakers. We'll move item number 4 on consent, no objection. Item number 5, there are 2 public speakers. Okay, we will. Item number 5, we have 2 speakers. And can you call this to order, Mr. Mejia?
Item 5, Councilman, this is a motion, Cedillo Huizar. It's instructing city planning along with the city attorney to prepare an ordinance to include the Central City West specific plan, inclusionary zoning requirements.
Thank you. Andrew Brady, Daniel Taban. Welcome.
Good afternoon, members of the Commission. Andrew Brady of DLA Piper. We're just here to speak in favor of the pending motion. As you know, the current Central City West inclusionary housing requirement was invalidated in 2009. And since that time, a number of projects have come down the pipeline, applied for, and some projects have even been approved without the requirement to provide inclusionary housing. And we think there's a fundamental fairness issue involved here. And we support the motion similar to the linkage fee, where there's a phased implementation and there's grandfathering. And we think that's necessary as a fundamental fairness issue, so that projects that have been approved without a multi-million-dollar inclusionary housing requirement cannot have that imposed on them after the fact, after approval, or late in the stage when projects have already been financed without the expectation of a multi-million-dollar inclusionary housing requirement. So we support the motion as written and support the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel Taban?
He's not here yet, so I think we can move on. Thank you.
We will move this item without objection. So ordered. Item number 6, no public speakers. We will move that item on consent without objection. Item number 7, we will continue to August 14th of 2018. August 14th, 2018, with no objections. Item number 10, we will move on consent without objection. Item number 12, we will approve on consent without objection.
On item 10, Councilman, could you please request the city attorney to prepare the CPIO,
Okay, we will
CPIO ordinance? Yes.
we will incorporate that into the approval
Thank you.
without objection. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. So now we will turn to item number 13. If you could read that into the record, please, Mr. Mejia.
Sure. Item 13, Councilman, this is an appeal by the owner of the El Serrano Liquor and Convenience Store in CD 14. There's modifications to the conditions of approval, and the appeal is before you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Collins on behalf of El Serrano Liquor. I'll make my remarks brief.
Okay, 1 second, please. We're going to have a short presentation first by our staff.
Okay.
And then we will call you up. What was your name again?
Mark Collins.
Okay. We will have a short presentation by staff, and then we will go to public comment. Is there any LAPD officers in the audience for this item? Okay, we will hear from you next after the presentation. Thank you. You could come up now if that's okay. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Alita James, Associate Zoning Administrator for the Planning Department. Again, a brief background on this particular item. The appeal was in response to allegations of a nuisance activities, and this public hearing was requested by the Office of the City Attorney. Citywide Nuisance Abatement Program referred over to the Planning Department. The Zoning Administrator held a hearing on March 14, 2017 to review the nuisance allegations as related to a recycling center and a liquor store. The recycling center was located in the south parking lot adjacent to the liquor store. The recycling center was permitted pursuant to the Municipal Code Section 1221A18D in association with the El Serrano Liquor Store, which had a C of O by the city, which was issued on October 22nd of 2008 and later was vacated in October of 2016 as verified by LADBS. All structures and everything pertaining to the recycling center was removed in 2016. Therefore, the zoning administrator, after the public hearing, dismissed the initiation of the nuisance abatement revocation action related to the recycling center known as Serrano Recycling, and it was located at 3323 Northeastern Ave. However, as documented from public testimony received from LAPD and letters and emails from the community, El Serrano Liquor Market participated and permitted nuisance activities at the subject site. Therefore, the zoning administrator modified the operations of the liquor store that had the address of 3325 through 3331 Northeastern Ave in order to mitigate the adverse impacts caused by the said operation from any future nuisance activities. The liquor store was issued a C of O in September of 1957. There were no prior conditions on the subject site. The operator had deemed to be approved status for off-site sales that was licensed by ABC, which was prior to 1985. Testimony provided at the March 14, 2017 public hearing indicated that the liquor store market was under the ownership of Joseph Rabon from 1970 through 1980 and was sold in 1988 to the Lawrence and Lillian Rabon Trust, who is identified as the current property owner. In this time frame, between January of 2015 and November of 2016, LAPD reported 48 calls for service for the property located at 3327 Northeastern, of which 4 of these calls were directly related to the liquor store for vandalism, theft, battery, and use of false identification. 14 calls were related to narcotics activities such as sales, possession, and controlled substance and overdose. There were also calls indicating a group fight and a vicious dog at the recycling center. There was an appeal filed by the property owner based on the zoning administrator's determination on conditions number 1, 3, 8, 22, and 23. Conditions number 1 of the zoning administrator's determination issued March 20th of 2018. Condition number 1 required that the property owner or business operator file a plan approval between 8 and 12 months from the effective date of the action, of said action. The applicant is, in response to that, states that the nuisance activities had been fully abated 4 months prior to the public hearing, and as the recycling center in the parking lot of the location was gone by November of 2016. Staff's response to that is that the findings were made to show that there were nuisance activities still occurring on the subject site, including the public's health, peace, and safety being jeopardized by the operations of the liquor store. The applicant also, or the appellant also, states that condition number 3, which was issued by the zoning administrator, limited the hours of operation from 7 a.m. until 1 a.m. daily. The operator and business owner contends that they have operating hours between 6 a.m. and 2 a.m. daily. And again, there's no operating conditions at the location, no prior operating conditions at the location. The reason the hours were reduced at the location was because of late night activities, disturbances, and it was found through testimony through the public and LAPD reports that the subject location had been under review for a period of 3 years for different illegal activities as well as nuisance activities, including, again, narcotic sales, use, public intoxication, public urination, battery, and multiple warrants actions that were served at the location. While the majority of the identified and reported activities were related to the drug sales and use in association with the recycling use, the acts of the public intoxication, urination, and battery that took place on the site can be partly attributed to insufficient business operations, including no on-site security. During the period of April 2nd, 2014, and September 21st of 2016, there were 21 arrest and investigation reports submitted by LAPD, of which 4, again, were directly related to the liquor store market operation that took place between the hours of 4:30 p.m. and 2:47 a.m. Those incidences included a customer was attacked and robbed while in the parking lot of the liquor store, an attack with a deadly weapon involving employees of the liquor store and a customer, a battery where the victim was attacked by 3 assailants while walking out of the liquor store and drinking in public of beer in the parking lot of the liquor store. The appellant also is appealing condition number 8, which requires a minimum of 1 state-licensed uniformed security guard that will patrol the parking lot areas and the sidewalk adjacent to the business from 6 p.m. until closing daily. And again, the security guard must be fluent in both English and Spanish. The applicant's response to this condition is that the recycling center was abated 4 months ago prior to the zoning administrator's public hearing held April of 2017, and that no incidences of crime have occurred prior to the abatement of the recycling center. Staff's response is that, again, similar to the prior condition that talks about the reductions in hours of operation. Again, establishing an on-site security guard would prohibit the loitering, the pandering, and public drinking in and around the location adjacent to the sidewalk and in the parking lots. The appellant also is questioning or appealing condition number 22, which requires the property and business owners record a covenant acknowledging and agreeing to complying with all the terms and conditions established. The covenant shall be recorded within 30 days from the effective date of the zoning administrator's action unless otherwise appealed. Applicant's response to that is that the conditions seek to record conditions against the property which have not been demonstrated. Therefore, the covenant unfairly restricts El Serrano's use of the leased premises and severely impacts the goodwill value of its business. Staff response to that is the filing of the covenant is an acknowledgement and an agreement to comply with by both the property owner and the business operator of the established conditions. And finally, condition number 23, which requires the city to recover any costs that are in association with the process to conduct the nuisance abatement action. And staff's response to that condition is that under Code Section number 1227.1C2, which are the procedures for notice, hearing, and appeals, it states whenever the director initiates an action pursuant to this section, he or she shall impose a condition requiring payment of the fee set forth under Section 1901P. So in summary, Joseph Rabone and the Rabone Family Trust and now the Lawrence and Lillian Rabone Trust have owned the property from 1970 to present. This has been a period of 48 years, and the owners these owners have operated the liquor store and the market. The business operators for El Sereno Liquor contend that Rabone was responsible for creating the nuisance by leasing a portion of the parking lot and collecting rents from the recycling business, and disputes any connection between the recycling center and the liquor market. It's clear in these arguments, even with the zoning administrator's public hearing, that neither party, whether it be the property owner or the business operator of the liquor store, is taking responsibility for the proper maintenance, safety, and security of the property or its operations. So, in short, in summary, the zoning administrator, in order to address these conditions and concerns of public health, peace, and safety, as presented in the public record and the administrative record, placed conditions, operating conditions, on the El Sereno liquor/market. Therefore, the staff respectfully requests that the committee deny the appeal and sustain the zoning administrator's decision. I'm available for any questions the committee may have.
Great, thank you very much. Los Angeles Police Department.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Detective Dana Harris, and I am the officer in charge at Detective Support and Vice Division. I have been a police officer for over 30 years now for the city of Los Angeles, and I am appalled when I see this El Sereno liquor store, as after we have met, probably about a year ago we met, and one of the things that we had asked was that you meet with your neighbors. There is a Vision Theater that is trying desperately to have business, they're trying to have plays, they're trying to have a proper business, and we ask for best business practices. One of my responsibilities with the Los Angeles Police Department especially is to meet with our property owners, our business owners, some of our liquor store owners, and say, what is it going to be to get you into best business practices? Well, part of best business practices is, like we said before, over 50 radio calls, ambulance overdose, crimes against person, battery, violent animals occurring at the location. And all these things are occurring, as we said before, between 0700 or 7 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the morning. But I want to, if I could tell you any one thing, it's the eye test. When I've gone by that liquor store and when I've sat surveillance in front of that liquor store, there's something else by that liquor store. It's a school. It's 2 elementary schools and a middle school, where we are asking our citizens, we're asking our kids of Los Angeles to walk by this liquor store and walk past these same people who go inside. They purchase liquor at 7 o'clock in the morning. They walk outside, and are they taking it back home? No, they're standing right outside the liquor store. They're standing by the trees, and they're drinking alcoholic beverages. And we're asking our young students to walk through there. Not only is it perilous for them, for the students, not only is it perilous for their parents to walk through this, but we're asking them to walk through and see this behavior as it's acceptable. It is not acceptable to me. It is, and hopefully it is not acceptable to you. And I'm asking that these conditions be upheld so that our students do not have to walk through. And when they're trying to get an education, they do not have to be subject and walk through what we're seeing here right now with El Sereno liquor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Sergeant Eric Martin from LAPD Hollenbeck, officer in charge of the Vice Unit. I've been a police officer for 19 years. Now as a supervisor, I conducted an operation at an investigation 5 days from today on May 31st at 6:20 in the afternoon. What we did is we went to the location knowing that we had this hearing today and the appeal was coming forward to see if in fact they are operating based on the conditions that were placed on them. With the conditions in hand and 2 of my officers, we arrived at the location and met with the cashier, which was in charge of the liquor store at the time. There were no other employees. The cashier was the sole person there that was in charge. Upon our investigation, we went item by item for every condition that's on here and asked to see whether or not they were abiding by the conditions that they're appealing here today. Condition number 3, the business hours of operation. There was no business hours of operations clearly posted as per condition number 3. When we asked for them for condition number 7, where was their 24-hour hotline for any members of the public or any citizens going into that store to complain for any type of nuisance activity? They have not established a 24-hour hotline as outlined in condition number 7. Condition number 8, having a security guard, which is supposed to have from 6 p.m. till closing. The cashier operating the location there did not have a security guard there at the time, and he may be coming in later. We watched it, and he was never at the location. We drove by the following day, did not see a security guard there. Condition number 13, having the windows free and clear of any signs or material which inhibits the views into the location by law enforcement, which is very important for responding officers in case there's robberies or any type of illegal activity going on, so the officers can go ahead and see into the location from the outside. The condition was not met. They had beer signs, neon signs blocking some of the windows in the front. Condition number 13, that was condition number 13, I'm sorry. I've also noticed that condition number 21 wasn't met, even though they weren't cited that day for. The person at the site did not have any of the conditions which I was there to enforce at all. Some of the food items that were at the location were covered in dust, and while conducting my investigation there to see if these conditions were being met, I observed members of the transient population going inside to the location, buying single alcohol beverages, 24 ounces or higher. Not a lot of food was being sold at the time. It was a constant, steady stream of alcohol sales only at the location, with the food obviously having dust all over it, so it wasn't being moved at all while we were there. So with this set forward, for this appeal to be asking for an appeal on the conditions that were enforced 5 days ago and clearly not being met is uncalled for.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Austin Fernald. I have over 36 years with the Los Angeles Police Department, and 33 of those are assigned or working the El Sereno community. The complaints I receive are from the community. They come directly to the senior lead office, and is associated with this market. There's a liquor store there's a alley that runs to the back of this market, and the community that complained to me and to Officer Frank Dominguez as well, the senior lead for the area, is that when alcohol is purchased, all they do, it tends to be a transient community, is go to the rear of the alley, which is butts up against the back of the market, and that's where they drink their alcohol out of sight of Eastern, but still very publicly viewed for the children and other community members that use the alley to get back and forth to their residence. That's also where the garages are for all the properties there, so they have to go up that alley. It's not an alley they can avoid. There's also a lot of trash and debris left there in that alley with the community, or the transit community that we have to the rear of the location.
Great. Thank you very much. Yes.
I just want to make it clear, the cashier being in control of the location was arrested and cited in order to appear in court for the violations.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you very much for your work on this. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, now we will go to public comment. The representative for the appellant is Mark Collins.
Good afternoon.
You have
can
5
everyone hear
minutes.
me?
5 minutes, sir. Yes.
No problem. Thank you. I'll make my remarks brief. Conspicuously absent from some of these reports is any evidence that any of the level or continuing nuisance claimed by any of the speakers. For example, we made a point at the time at the original hearing of March 17 that this recycling center was at cause for the public drunkenness. They would actually buy liquor at not only this location, but other locations on the same block on the same side of the street, and I guess congregate there, and it was also notorious for narcotics. And so that got cleared out in 2016. So beyond that, I don't have any evidence before me of ongoing criminal activity. What we heard the last speaker complain about is transients in an alley behind the property, not our property, but in an alley, in a public alley, that has nothing to do with the operation of a liquor store. They're transients. And if they put trash in the alley off our property, it's also not the responsibility of the property owner. And by the way, I want to make clear that in some of the presentations they talk interchangeably about the property owner and then the tenant of the liquor store. So I represent only the tenant. Counsel for landlord is also here if you had questions for her. But some of the complaints that the officers legitimately must have about the condition of public alleyways and whatever, there's no correlation at all. And there's nothing in the record that says it has anything to do with sales from this location. They're transients, okay? So I would ask the committee and anyone reviewing this to say, look, if you're going to pin conditions on a tenant, that there be some nexus between the conditions you seek to impose and the problem you seek to avoid. For example, and then after we heard the presentation from the zoning office, we heard one presentation about that they're a liaison about business practices. Unfortunately, as counsel for El Serrano, I'm not aware of any visits or no one's contacted our office. So I don't have any data, I don't have any information about what he found and what his best business practices are. And I think it's a little bit difficult to try and come up here and explain to the committee about what business practices exist because we have no report from them. But it's also, his report was not at all addressed in terms of time. We laud the efforts of the LAPD, the property owner, and our client to clean up that neighborhood, which is going through gentrification, had a very bad drug problem, including the sales of narcotics on the street, and public drinking in that location. But to my knowledge, without anything else in the record, there's no public drinking in the parking lot anymore. I did my own crime map because I appealed to both the Hollenbeck Police Department and to the LAPD's Records Division to get an updated crime report to provide as a part of my appeal, but of course I got no response. But I did run the crime map when I go to the LAPD site and check it. And I checked, there are no incidents related to this property within 500 yards in the last year, except some break-ins on cars. And that's according to the link from the LAPD's website. So my question is, if you're going to include security because you have some kind of idea that something's going on for the sale of this convenience and liquor store, it should relate to, if you're going to impose conditions, it should have something to do with this business. And they did, in fact, get cited Friday. Members of the Hollenbeck police team did get over there to do an inspection to see what compliance was, even though in our appeal filed a month ago, we did request that most of those conditions be stayed until we'd had a chance to get a decision on the appeal. But they did get over there to do their inspection. So just so you know, the same day, we removed the signs in the window. But otherwise, there had been a hotline established. The hotline sign was posted. And I provided all that to the hearing officer, Lita James, yesterday when I was noticed about the ticket that was issued. So if you're going to impose conditions, the request has always been from the beginning that you demonstrate that it really has to do with what's happening with this liquor store. No one wants children to be around alcohol, okay? But I don't have any evidence, and I don't think the committee has evidence, that, at least none of it's been supplied, that there is public drunkenness in the street. There's been no citations for that, to my knowledge. And I don't think kids are going to have to are walking past drinkers on the street that come out of our store. At least the record has none of that in it. So for those reasons, I requested that you look at those conditions and see if they're actually related to our store. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speakers I have is Ala Kalajian, Giselle Rivera, Cindy Martinez.
Mr. Chair, is this just general speaking, or is this the applicant?
We are general speaking.
Good afternoon. I'm Ala Kalajian.
Welcome.
Hi. I'm here to plead not to remove the conditions that the liquor store was put on. It is absolutely necessary to keep them on. Since the removal of the recycling center, the quality of life did improve, but the problem still exists because the property owner and the business owner refuse to cooperate. Don't people who live there deserve better than that? What about the children who live and go to school there? They deserve better. Nobody is asking the business to or proposing to close their business. All we asking is cooperation, to install the lights, to security cameras or security guards, to eliminate the criminal activity that is going on a daily basis.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Giselle Rivera, Cindy Martinez, Carlos Martinez, Elizabeth Aguilar. Could state your name before you speak, please?
My name is Cindy Martinez.
And everyone has 1 minute. Each person has 1 minute. Okay, go ahead.
I am Giselle Rivera. I'm a case manager in El Sereno. So we're here to say that we're not in support of the appeal process. We don't agree with the liquor store owners, and we don't want our kids to be exposed to these activities that are going on in the liquor store. I'm part of the Barrio Action Youth and Family Center. I'm one of the case managers. I also do not support the appeal due to the safety of the community and the fact that it's also near the school sites as well.
Great, thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Aguilar. I'm actually a gang reduction and youth development case manager. And for the last year and a half, I have been working with youth trying to diminish some of the risk factors, such as the criminal activity and the substance abuse, right? So they claim that the kids don't walk by there. They walk by there all the time. El Sereno Middle School students walk through there to get to Barrio Action. So these are some of the kids that I personally work with, and so I don't approve or I don't agree with the appeal. This shouldn't be, they have a moral duty to even if it's in the alley and it's not part of their property, but they have the moral duty to say, you know what, this is not the place or the time. And so I just don't agree with it.
Great, thank you.
Carlos Martinez, Director of Operations for Barrio Action. As staff has mentioned, we do not agree with the appeal. We definitely want to support all restrictions and conditions that are currently imposed and any best practices in the near future that the business can tailor within the scope of work or conditions that you guys will impose on them. In addition to that, I do want to mention that since a few weeks back, there has been much more, it seems cleaner, quieter. And this is important for public safety. It's critical for the children and families. So we want to keep that in mind that as a good neighbor, we want to make sure that we provide a safe passage for everyone throughout that community. I also want to mention that I do live in El Sereno as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That concludes public comment on this item. Let me begin by stating that I've personally witnessed the nuisances that occur at that liquor store. And contrary to what the owner's applicant was saying, I think there's plenty of evidence that the police department and our planning department has provided that shows a consistent and ongoing violation of conditions for its operations. It's quite disturbing to see often that there are people that appear to be drunk in front of the liquor store, and a property owner, a liquor store owner in particular, has an obligation to provide for safe entry and exit to their businesses and even in the public right-of-way in front of their property. I am actually happy that it's gone to this point because of the nuisance that's been created. I want to thank LAPD for your attention, the City Attorney's Office, and the Planning Department for your thorough evaluation and research on this item. Are there any questions or comments before I make a motion? No? Okay, so with that, I will move that we deny the appeals and sustain the decision of the Director of Planning for revocation. Okay. Any objections to that? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Okay, and next we will move to we have an item that could go on consent. People are going to pull their cards from speaking. What item was it? 12? Oh, we moved that on consent already. That was moved already. Okay. No, that was moved already. Okay, item 8 and 9, if you could read that into the record, please, Mr. Mejia.
Sure. Item 8, Councilman, this is a communication from the Planning Commission. It's a draft ordinance, a zone change ordinance. It's for the redevelopment of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza into a mixed-use retail use. And item 9 is the associated development agreement.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Christina Lee, Department of City Planning staff. At its meeting of July 13, 2017, the City Planning Commission considered the redevelopment of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, which proposes the maintenance of the existing enclosed mall structure, cinema, and commercial building, and the construction of 400 hotel rooms, 961 residential dwelling units, 331,000 square feet of additional retail restaurant uses, 144,000 square feet of office and associated parking under case number CPC 2015-4398 GPA ZC HD ZAD CU. The City Planning Commission also considered a development agreement for a term of 20 years in exchange for the provision of community benefits with a combined value of $4 million and 10% restricted affordable units under case number CPC 2016-3681 DA. The City Planning Commission approved the project, recommending approval of a zone and height district change and approving a special reduction of off-street parking to allow a 10% parking reduction for commercial uses located within 1,500 feet of a transit facility, a zoning administrator's determination to allow shared parking for commercial uses, and also recommending approval of the development agreement. On August 18, 2017, 1 appeal was filed for the EIR and 7 appeals were filed on the entitlement. The areas of concern raised by the appellants are nearly identical in nature. The appeal points raised by the appellants are the following. Number 1, the project's EIR fails to evaluate the direct displacement, indirect displacement, inclusionary displacement caused by this mega development, which features 961 market rate units in a low-income majority Black community with a median household income of $36,564 for the 90008 zip code. 2, the project violates the zoning, and municipal codes. 3, the project does not conform with the intent of the city's general plan and the West Adams Baldwin Hills Leimert Community Plan. 4, the project does not conform with the requirements of CEQA. And 5, the project's environmental impact report and related reports failed to properly evaluate the significant environmental and human impacts of this massive gentrification project in this historic Black Crenshaw community, which will worsen the Black homelessness crisis, Black worker crisis, and Black education crisis and lead to increased police interactions with Black people that has proven deadly. Responses to the appeals were prepared by staff and located in the council file. Thank you, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. We will now go to public comment. And we have 7 appellants. So what each appellant is entitled to 5 minutes each on your presentation as I call you up. On the applicants, typically what we do is an applicant has 5 minutes to speak. You do have some other representatives here, so you will have a total of 15 minutes considering that there are a number of appellants. So we'll start off with the appellants. Reverend William Smart.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor William Smart. I'm the president and CEO of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Southern California, the organization that Dr. Martin Luther King founded here in Los Angeles also. And I'm speaking on behalf of SCLC, the Black Community Clergy Labor Alliance, and the National Action Network. Council members, it saddens me to be here today to speak in opposition to this project. This is a crucial issue. Will there be space in South LA where we can have a home? And I am also supremely disappointed that this important conversation is taking place today. A day, Capri was granted 3 extensions and the city council chose to hold this hearing on election day. Refused to extend it to a time that the public could participate. People died for the right to vote, and many of our colleagues are out participating today who wanted to be here. They're engaging in that important activity. So we are clear that this is not just a question of jobs or housing. Ultimately, it is a question of whether greed will lend to the cultural erasure of Los Angeles' Black community, whether bringing in nearly 1,000 market-rate housing units will worsen gentrification in our community. In this Crenshaw community, we need good jobs, and we need to be able to stay in the houses and apartments and community that we call home. Why is this happening now? As Black people, so many of our churches, our homes, our communities, our cultural homes, our political home is Crenshaw. Crenshaw means something to Black people. It's becoming the last bastion of Black culture. Crenshaw, Leimert Park area. Every culture in LA has their communities. Every culture. Everybody has a place where they can call their own. And they even have signs to show it. But here, this is a place we will gladly share, but don't erase us. Please. Right now, As I look around the room, I look at all the people who have orange shirts on, and one of the reality is that they're not going to be able to afford to live in the community. After developers finish, and then the rates go up and higher, they're not going to be able to live there. So where will they go? They'll go to Victorville. That's where you want us to go, Victorville? Because we're not going to be able to live in our own community. When you knowingly engage in actions that will displace people from their homes, that is a civil rights violation. This is a human rights violation. This project should not be built unless it is completely affordable to the surrounding Crenshaw community and at least 50% local hire agreement. Now, the bar has already been set. On my way here, I had another conversation with the project manager of the Kaiser that was just built there. He argued with me and said, no, Reverend, it's not 85% in that project. We had 100% local hire in Kaiser. Check the record. And why are we only selling for 30% here? Why? I've traveled around this country putting together community benefits agreements in all kinds of communities. And what you have before you is a bad deal for the community. It's embarrassing. We don't even have the approval of the Black Workers Center, who deal with this every day. So we need to kick it back and demand that the developer do right by the community in the name of civil rights, in the name of human rights, in the name of black people. In closing, too many times in my lifetime, I've watched black folks, Latino brothers and sisters, Asians, vote against their own best interests. Don't let us be fooled. We're voting against our own best interests if we accept this.
Thank you. Akili? Yeah, Akili, that's the only name I have here.
Yes, that's the only name I use.
All right.
My name's Akili, and I live at 4555 Martin Luther King. I'm with and speaking for LA CAN, the Black Workers Center, and the Fannie Lou Hamer Institute. We want development without displacement. We want to be able to protect the culture and character and the people in our community. What we see is a national trend that's happening across the country. It starts with gentrification, a shiny new thing that everybody wants and thinks they want. But then, in a few years, the same people who wanted it can't live there, don't live there. What's the price that we pay? The Crenshaw development, the mall as it is currently constructed, is a housing project. First, it is a classic example of development and displacement. If the median income is $39,000 a year, and the monthly rates for the market rates at the proposed site are between $2,700 and $3,200 a month, that means that the people who live in the immediate area won't be able to live there. They won't be able to live there. There are 10 zip codes in the Crenshaw corridor where 50% of the people are paying more than 30% of their income. 10 zip codes, unlike any place else in Los Angeles. Unemployment. And because I worked for the Black Workers Center, I got this mantra. We are 50% underemployed and unemployed. That is, if we got a job, it's probably paying minimum wage or just above. Then there are those of us who simply don't have a job. There's no guarantees at this point that the program or project will hire black people. And we know without monitoring, reporting, and pressure, whatever percentage is laid out is just a statement, a point of reference. It's not a goal that people seek to change. And then finally, something that is connected to the gentrification that goes on. It's over-policing because we have to make the community safe. While crime rates in many of our parts of our city have gone down, we are over-policed in our own community. And we are on the path of having another Ezel Ford or Jeremiah Mack, who was killed in Crenshaw Mall a few weeks ago. So we get over-policing, which generally leads to death of black and brown people. And then finally, they are going to be they're projected to be between 40 and 69,000 people displaced if this happens within the next few years. Many of those people, unless we take some steps now, will wind up as a part of the homeless population. A population that we say we want to reduce. But we are taking steps that contribute to it. In the few minutes that I have left, I want to ask you to do a couple of things. One is take a look at the health impact assessment that was just done and completed in April. That gives you and talks about the housing burdens and the struggles that the people have to go through. This will aggravate that struggle. Simply put, we want development without displacement. We want to be able to stay in our community, to thrive in our community, and to build our community. Thank you.
Thank you. The LA Tenants Union. Is there a representative for the Tenants Union?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
How's everybody doing in the office, in the room? All right, cool. It's beautiful to see a lot of folks here, and a lot of folks are getting informed for the first time of what's really going on in this committee. So my name is Estuardo Mazariegos. I'm here on behalf of the LA Tenants Union and also the community organization ACE, the Alliance of California Community Empowerment. So number one, I was a 7-year-old kid on April 29th, 1992. I was looking outside my window, and I saw my city burning down. Since then, I knew that at that point I would have a life full of struggle, a life full of a lot of uphill battles, meaning that we would need to get on our feet every day to make sure that we could put food on the table, that we could keep a roof over our head. And we got into this point where we're having a lot of investment happening in our city. After many years of not having investment in our city, we're starting to get inundated with investment that truly isn't a benefit to our city. As being proposed, this project does not benefit the community where it's being built in. I door knock every day in the Baldwin Hills Village, and every day I witness overcrowding. Every day I witness slum housing. Every day I witness folks that have to make a decision between putting food on the table, paying the bills, paying the rent, or providing an education for their kids. And as being proposed here in this committee, this project will make this situation even worse. It is my understanding that we have to act on the behalf of the community. And if we let this project, if you gentlemen let this project go move forward as being proposed, it will not be in the benefit of the community. Earlier, I understood that it was a 5% affordable housing number that we were going to meet in this project, but that's still not enough. In an area where we don't have enough affordable housing being built in Los Angeles, it's just a big problem. So, I mean, in conclusion, it's just we need more affordable housing. We need to make sure that we have local hire in this neighborhood, in this project, way more than 30%. We need 100% local hire. Every day I look up and down the street, I drive through the street, I drive through Slauson, I drive through Flower, making that left onto the 110, and I see those encampments getting bigger every day. The situation is getting worse. These type of projects are going to make the situation even worse. I'm tired of seeing my neighbors suffer. I'm tired of seeing my neighbors without a house. I'm tired of seeing all this happen in my community. This is a city that I love. This is a city that I care for deeply. This is a community that I care for deeply. And to see this happen and to stand here and look at you, Mr. Curran Price, just looking at that paper and not paying attention, it's a big problem. We're here making sure that we are voicing our concern, and it's not being taken noted. So please, please, go back to the drawing board with this. Don't hurt our community anymore. Go back to the drawing board and listen to our voices. Go back to the drawing board and take into consideration the folks that will end up in the street. Go back to the drawing board and take our appeals seriously. Because as it stands, this is not a good development for the Baldwin Hills Village, for the Hyde Park area, which I am a current resident of. And I don't want to see any more of my fellow neighbors out in the street. I just want to make sure that we all have a place to stay in the city. We deserve to be in the city. We've lived through the worst that the city went through. We've made the city happen. We've made it a destination for the world. We're the flavor of the city. And yeah, if we displace it, if we displace our community in Hyde Park in the Crenshaw district, we're losing a lot. So just please go back to the drawing board, reconsider this, listen to our appeals, make sure you do right by the community, by the folks that pay the taxes, by the folks that are putting money in your pocket, by the folks that are electing you, by the people that are putting you in that office, in that seat. Listen to us, not the developers. Especially on this day, today. It's election day. I want my voice to be heard. I want my voice to count. And this is something that definitely is of concern to me. I'm going to continue to organize in the community, continue to organize in the Baldwin Hills Village, and hopefully create a stiff resistance and opposition to these type of projects coming forward. We want to uplift our community, not uproot our community. And this is what this should be about. Uplift our community, not uproot our community. So again, please take our appeals serious. Thanks.
Clint Simmons and Kim Jurgen.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Kim Jurgen, and I'm a member of the People's Coordinated Services Senior Center on Crenshaw in front of the Metro rail train that's going at grade and killing our parking for our businesses, for our walking for our seniors and our students that are along that route, putting their lives in jeopardy. I relocated here from Los Angeles from Chicago in 1982. I have lived in the Crenshaw community for some 35 years. I have mostly shopped at the Crenshaw Mall and have had most of my needs met at reasonable prices while I was working. Now I'm retired. As a retired senior on fixed income, as are many other seniors in the community, the proposed redevelopment Crenshaw Mall with nearly 1,000 high-priced apartments is surely intended to displace myself and many of the African-American residents who currently live in the community and for decades have been marginalized, disinvested, disenfranchised, and lack of job opportunities when white folks ran like roaches when the lights were turned on for some 60 years ago. Capri Capital Partners, also known as Capri Urban Baldwin, plans to add apartments, condos, office, and hotel to the Crenshaw Mall will mostly benefit those new folks who come in the community with high-price housing comes high-price retail. This mega development is unaffordable for me on my fixed income and for my housing costs at more than 50% of my income. No more shopping for me at the Crenshaw Mall, for me or many others seniors in the community. The unaffordable prices of the proposed project is not limited to the mall. The values of the rents and homes are already unaffordable in some cases in the community. Had I not purchased my two-bedroom under 1,000 square foot home in 2002 and in Angeles Mesa neighborhood, I could not afford it today. It has increased in value by a factor of 4, as is. A two-bedroom rental is averaging $2,500 a month. This and other developments in the community is a strategy to take back or reclaim the community, Crenshaw community that was abandoned and neglected by whites, major retailers, banks, insurance companies, investors, etc., when blacks moved in the community.
Well, I don't have much time. My name is Clint Simmons. I'm a property owner in the area. We are not opposed to the mall, but we just want the mall to be inclusive, specifically of those seniors who live in the area and surround the mall. Back in 2004, I think it was, the Cal State University Pomona did a study for the mall, and at that time I asked the question, will I be able to attend the mall and shop at the mall? Because the planning at that time is precisely what we're seeing happening now. It's not the idea that you're improving, yes. The point being is, can a senior who live in the area afford to shop there? Let's take a look at the example. The median income for the area is $39,230. That was as of 2016. That's for the Crenshaw area where people live. We have a home ownership there of 46%. Rentals are 62%. So as you can see, there is a complete disparity there. When you come in with new upscale apartments, townhalls, and the price that you will charge, the people who are living in and around that area now will not be able to afford those areas. So that's what we're asking you to look at. You can improve something with building and at the same time destroy that entire community. I have seen that happen in the area that I came from in Florida. I came here in California as a member of the United States Air Force. Sorry I didn't have enough time to complete, but I think you understand why we're here. And it's not that we are objecting, but we want them all to be inclusive, specifically of the seniors that live in the area. So thank you for giving us a chance to speak, and I hope you heard and will act accordingly from a humanitarian point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jackie Ryan.
Good afternoon. My name is Jackie Ryan, and I've been a 70-year committed African-American citizen who has lived in the Crenshaw district for all my life. I graduated from Dorsey High School, and I have witnessed African-Americans in this community work hard to have space in the Crenshaw community. Now, we have done that with commitment, good citizenship, voting, as we went to do today, and we've made a wonderful space for ourselves in the black community. I have owned a small mom-and-pop black business in Leimert Park Village for the past 25 years, and we have struggled to stay there amongst the billion-dollar corporations that are now coming into all of our cities and making it difficult for African-American mom and pop businesses to survive. Now, while we like nice things, we like nice developments, what we want to see as African Americans is to be able to sustain ourselves and to remain in our communities with fair and just rents. We're not against having nice things. We're not against malls. We're not against development. But we want parity. African American businesses in Los Angeles deserve subsidies. Maybe the Baldwin Hills Mall would consider giving small black businesses subsidies as a community benefit. Maybe the city of Los Angeles would consider guaranteed incomes for African Americans that are juxtaposed against rents and mortgages that they can no longer afford. That's what we need. We need government policies that work in the favor of sustaining our presence in our community. We need better wages here, higher wages. We need to be able to compete while we are working every day. We know that if we have parity from the government policies, from the city policies, that we can sustain our efforts here, but we cannot sustain our efforts with mega global corporations gentrifying our space and running us out of every city in the United States of America. We know that's not the intent of the mall, to run us out. I'm sure they didn't think about it when they started. You know, they started with a mall, a shopping center. Then it ended up with housing. Yes, people need housing, but we have to have housing that all African Americans can sustain themselves equitably and in health care, in a healthy way, in a way that we can continue our presence in the city of Los Angeles and not be replaced. So we ask for the benefit of doing rent subsidies for small black businesses and to consider us always as great, fabulous, and wonderful citizens of the community of Los Angeles that deserve a space with fair rents and mortgages. Thank you.
Thank you. Damian Goodman.
Time started. Can I get it just 1 second, please? I don't need the 30 seconds. You can keep it. Have you no shame? Election day, 3 requests were granted to this applicant. You extended them all. And on election day, you choose to make the decision that will gentrify the heart of the black community. So I am clear. My name is Damian Goodman. I represent the Crenshaw Subway Coalition, Hope, AIDS, Healthcare Foundation, Housing is a Human Right. I am a renter in Leimert Park, and I enter these and all comments in opposition to this project into the record. Raise your hand if you make over $115,000 a year. Raise your hand if your rent or mortgage is over $3,000 a year. Let us note that the council member's hand is not even raised. That is the cost that these market rate units would be. That is the amount of money you must make in order to afford them. Here's the reality. If when black people who moved in this community, if the home and rents were what they are today, this would not be a black community. Black LA would be Victorville. Black LA would be Moreno Valley. You know this. And CEQA did not even evaluate in their environmental review process the displacement impact of what takes place when you bring in market rate units at $3,200 a month, right next to renters in Baldwin Village who barely make $23,000 a year. If you're a council member who says that you can do nothing about gentrification while approving this project, I have a message for you. Resign. You are not worth the space and the power of the seat that you represent. And this concept that there's this mythical group of black people who have over $115,000 a year who will occupy these units is fantasy. My mama told me about a fat, jolly man who used to come down a chimney at night. I didn't believe that when I was an adult either. We are not to believe our lying eyes. We live in the community today. No one that looks like us is able to buy the homes as they're put on the market. And you want to add fuel to that fire. The data that we've been collecting on the health impact assessment shows that over 69,000 people spend more than 50% of their income in this community on their rent. They can't afford a rent increase that you know this mall will generate. It's not a lie. That's the reason they build these projects, to increase the land values and rents around them. What will you say when we ask you 20 years from now, and you are asked to call on this day as to how Black LA was eviscerated? What will you say to the many of us who are pushed out to Victorville, or even worse, onto Skid Row? The most egregious element of this is that this is a project that is only as economically viable because of public investment. The public paid for the Expo line. The public paid for the Crenshaw line. I fought hard for that Crenshaw line. The public previously paid the loans to generate the mall value that it is today by renovating it. And what is our reward? A one-way ticket to Victorville. Our reward is for this man, Quentin Primo, one of the richest black men in the world, who made his statement well known when asked why there is no affordable housing in the project. South LA and the Crenshaw corridor specifically is disproportionately represented by affordable housing. It is his goal to push us out. It is his goal to change the makeup of this community. And you are not just complicit in this action with what you were intended to do today. Councilmember Price, Englander, Harris, Dawson, Bloomfield, and I know Weston's going to speak, and Council Chair Wazar, you are active participants in the cultural erasure of the black community. On Election Day, the day that the seats that you sit in are by the product of sacrifices of black people that look like you and brown people that look like you. And you are going to really do this today. We request that our appeals and these items be pushed into the record. We request that this item be put back into the community. Nothing is preventing this council member from having a meeting in the community to discuss this controversial project. We request that this project not go forward in the absence of 100% affordable housing and a minimum of 50% local hire. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Beverly Palmer,
Those are all submitted into the
in
record.
place of Robert Farrell.
Good afternoon, council members. I also have some documents to submit, not as big a stack as Mr. Goodman. And my comments, while they will not be as dramatic as Mr. Goodman's, they are equally important. My comments focus on the legal issues associated with the approval of this project, and specifically the failure to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. First of all, you cannot rely on the certification of the environmental impact report by the zoning administrator in connection with the approval of the vesting tentative tract map, simply because nobody was aggrieved by that aspect of this project and did not appeal it. You must independently review the EIR to determine whether the impacts are adequately addressed before you can approve these legislative acts. And the EIR is inadequate. As Mr. Goodman so eloquently and the other speakers have commented, this project will indisputably displace people. The CEQA guidelines identify specifically the displacement of people as an impact that must be analyzed in the EIR. And the EIR notes this, but simply says, a few jobs might be temporarily displaced during construction of the mall. The EIR entirely ignores the obviously foreseeable consequence of this project, the direct displacement of nearby residents due to rising rents, rising property values, and this is well documented in the stack of evidence that Mr. Goodman just presented to you, and it is well known to the city, and this is no secret. Thousands, tens of thousands could be driven out of their homes by this project. Where will they go, and why is this an environmental impact? Well, you've heard speakers mention Victorville, you've heard speakers mention Skid Row, you've heard speakers mention different locations. Well, it's an environmental impact. If people have to drive longer distances to get to their place of employment, to visit with their family and friends, if they're removed from where they live and they must return, there will be an impact. And it's an environmental impact if people are displaced from their homes and wind up resorting to living in tents, as so many have done in the city of Los Angeles. It's a blight on communities, and it's a blight on people who are living adjacent to those conditions and dealing with those consequences. And I challenge anyone to say that that is not an environmental impact. The EIR also is inadequate in its analysis of traffic. This project generates 40,000 daily trips. 13,000 of them are net new trips that do not currently exist. It causes significant and unmitigable impacts at many intersections. Only 4 of the intersections are able to be mitigated. But what's the biggest problem with the EIR? It doesn't even attempt to analyze which neighborhood streets will see intrusion of traffic, people who are trying to get around these really congested arteries. The EIR simply punts on this point. It says, well, here's a few places where we might see them. So after the project is already approved and getting ready to be built and then built, we will do some traffic counts. And we're not even going to identify how we will determine whether there's a neighborhood intrusion. And we don't know how we're going to mitigate it. And we'll just say $300,000 is enough. Well, that's not enough. We have no idea, and the community doesn't know. And I have never seen an EIR punt so hard on that issue to not even attempt to do one shred of analysis as to where those vehicles might go. It is a clear deficiency under CEQA, and it is really insulting to the neighborhood that lives around that project to not even have taken the time and effort to try to figure out which streets might become cut-through streets for all those people who are trying to get to and from this new development. It's just an outrageous omission. And finally, I'd like to say that EIR also punts on the issue of greenhouse gas emissions. The reduction analysis on the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is based on a fiction. This project is already located next to a transit line that the community supported. And to say that business as usual would be no transit line and the reductions from this project are because it is located by a transit line is a complete farce. And there is no evidence that this project is really reducing any greenhouse gas emissions whatsoever. The EIR is definitely lacking on evidence on this issue. And finally, I'd like to say, as to the proposed changes by the applicant to the development agreement to remove any affordable housing other than workforce housing, that will only increase the displacement impacts of this project and make it even less affordable to any community members.
Thank you. Now we will turn to the applicant. We have 3 speakers, Lindsay Cosberg, Quentin Primo, and Stephen Lott. Each has 5 minutes, or if you want to allot those 15 minutes, however you like. We'll add the 15 minutes together and however you want to split those up. Right. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, honorable council members. I'm Lindsay Cosberg of Park and Vallejo on behalf of Capri Urban Baldwin LLC and Capri Urban Crenshaw LLC. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. We're currently providing you with several images from the project that we encourage you to look through as we speak. We particularly encourage you to take a look at some of the photographs that show the current status of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza compared with some of the renderings that show the future development that will take place in those locations. The Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza spans 43 acres, and the master plan, which has been years in the making, brings to life the goals and the vision of the West Adams Baldwin Hills Lamert Community Plan. The master plan was unanimously approved by the City Planning Commission in July. We are requesting only minor modifications to the conditions of approval that were recommended by the Commission, and those are detailed in the letter that was submitted to you. We are also requesting minor modifications to the development agreement as detailed in our second letter. We are pleased to answer any questions you have regarding these revisions or the project, and in the interest of time, I will address the appeals in my closing remarks. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Quentin Primo, Chairman and CEO of Capri Investment Group. Capri is one of the largest African-American-owned real estate investment firms in the country and the owner of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. Quentin?
Thank you, Lindsay. Good afternoon. We are very pleased to present our vision for a transit-oriented, mixed-use destination in the heart of the Crenshaw corridor. Our investment will bring needed housing and jobs to the area at a site that is a critical part of the fabric of the community. Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza is one of the oldest regional shopping centers in the country. The center opened its doors in 1947 and has been a community anchor ever since. Capri has embraced that history. And since acquiring the property in 2006, we have infused over $40 million in upgrades to the mall and $70 million to the property overall. We have attracted national brands and local business owners alike, in some cases making significant rent and tenant improvement concessions to attract the businesses our community wants and needs. Over 40% of our tenants, over 40%, are local businesses, many of them minority-owned. But we face new challenges today, a historic shift in consumer buying habits that is changing the market for shopping centers, including ours. To us, that challenge represents an opportunity. As you can see in the photos before you, the property is largely surface parking lots enclosed by wrought iron fencing. Where other people see surface parking lots, we envision new housing, a new hotel, an outdoor retail village, and office space. The result will be a beautiful, vibrant, pedestrian-friendly community, a project that wraps and supports the existing mall. Economists and planners will tell you the same thing. The era of surface parking lots is over. This is an opportunity to modernize this property and create a livable community. The proposal before you is seen by a large segment of local neighbors and businesses as vital to the future of the area. We proudly offer a highly successful summer concert series, a weekly farmers market, our free Be Fit fitness program, the Pan-African Film Festival, and the Lamort Park Village Book Fair, among many other events. We are committed to continuing to offer community programming that is a hallmark of the Crenshaw corridor. And while we are just one property owner, we are joined by thousands of local residents and other stakeholders who have helped shape this project and support our vision. We're delighted to share that more than 7,500 residents have signed on as supporters of the project. We'd like for you to see the master plan in more detail that will entail green space and pedestrian paths, residential units, mixed-income residential units, retail and restaurant space, hotel with banquet facilities, and an office building. Raw International has been working with us to craft the master plan, a minority-owned firm, including our project architect, Steve Lott. In addition to his talent and experience, Steve was raised and still lives just a few blocks from Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. He understands the property's role within the Crenshaw community, and we are pleased to have Steve walk you through Raw's master plan. Thank you very much.
I'm Steve Lott with Raw International. As a longtime neighbor of Baldwin Hills Crenshaw, I'm proud to be part of this vital project that is the most significant privately funded investment our community has seen in generations. The master plan transforms surface parking lots into vibrant areas where the most modern urban design principles are embraced and celebrated. Importantly, as Quentin emphasized, this master plan for Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza will strengthen its anchor position on the Crenshaw corridor. Our master plan is all about connectivity and linkages. Connectivity to the Crenshaw line will enable Angelenos to access Crenshaw and local residents to access communities throughout our growing transit system. The Baldwin Hills Crenshaw plan also creates connectivity to surrounding residential areas, including Leimert Park and View Park, and to businesses along the Crenshaw corridor. We have also designed the plan for connectivity to the former Santa Barbara Plaza across the street, where the new Kaiser facility sits today. Because the mall is surrounded by fencing and surface parking lots, the site lacks easy access of entry for pedestrians. This master plan is very much creating easy access for visitors, making it easy to come and go by foot, train, bus, and bike to this locale. Open spaces are designed to house an even more vibrant farmers market, community entertainment venues, local events, exercise classes, and more. And by bringing housing to the site, the plan provides long, inclusive options for a wide cross-section for our community, from low-income residents to empty nesters to working millennials seeking to return to their community, but in a modern loft or apartment. The before and after images really tell the story, so I'd like you to walk through those visuals. You're on page 10, okay? What you see here is a large surface parking lot. After the transformation, this space becomes a beautiful green area for the community to gather, along with retail space in an outdoor retail village environment. Overall, the project includes 7 acres of open space, including residential amenities and venues for the community events that have been so popular at the mall. 7. This before and after shows the Crenshaw Street view. And after the transformation, this will become an urban design model with wide sidewalks as walkable streets, ground floor retail, and modern residences. Here's the surface parking lot at Stockard and what it will look like with the new hotel with up to 400 hotel rooms. For allowing me to take you on a quick tour of the property and for having the opportunity to point out the urban design principles and community benefits this master plan will bring to the area. As Lindsay mentioned, we will be available to respond to your questions.
In connection with our applications, you are considering a group of appeals which raise the same issues. They are related to one another. The appeals lack merit, and we respectfully request that you deny them. The appeals generally challenge the EIR and the findings and claim that the project will cause gentrification and displacement. The issues they raise have been considered and addressed in the project environmental review documents, by the advisory agency, and by the City Planning Commission. The Planning Department staff report before you likewise addresses these issues in detail. We agree with the city's conclusions, and we have prepared a lengthy letter with responses as well. In the interest of time, I will briefly address the issues that are covered in our letter. First, no evidence has been submitted with the appeals to justify their claims, only speculation. The EIR was prepared and considered in accordance with the city's standard practice. It was certified by the advisory agency in January 2017 and was not appealed by any party, including the appellants, some of whom attended and testified at the advisory agency hearing. Second, the findings are thoroughly and well documented and support the city's determination. The project is entirely consistent with city policies, including the community plan that was adopted by this council in 2016. The third issue, gentrification and displacement, is one that we are sensitive to, but which has no relationship to this project. Everyone agrees there is a shortage of housing in Los Angeles. This project will add more than 900 new residential units, including nearly 100 affordable housing units. No existing housing is being removed or modified. The appellants claim that the EIR needs to address gentrification and displacement. However, CEQA's concern is environmental impacts. The appeals present no evidence that gentrification and displacement would result from the project, and likewise present no evidence of significant environmental impacts therefrom. The applicant's response letter, however, provides you with data prepared by Cosmont companies that reviewed the census tracts surrounding the project site and underscores that there is no evidence of gentrification or displacement. What the project will do is offer a path to sustaining the existing mall and to fulfilling community priorities, including those expressed in the community plan. Capri has a stellar track record of investment in this community, including its support for local entrepreneurs and workers. We are honored to have so many members of the community here as supporters today, and I know you will hear from many of our friends in Orange shortly. We respectfully request that you deny the appeals before you and approve the project with the applicant's requested changes to the conditions of approval and to the development agreement. We thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We will continue with public comment at this time. And given the remainder of the agenda on this agenda item and the number of speakers who've signed up, we have we have 8 and 9. Okay, we could just call them out. Okay. Skip Townsend, Gary Kinnard. Each person has 1 minute.
Good evening. I am Skip Townsend, and I'm here representing those individuals that are normally disregarded in our community. I am the founder of Second Call, and I heard someone mention Kaiser Hospital having a 100% project labor agreement, 100% local hire. That is because of Second Call. I don't want other companies coming and taking credit for it. I want to say right now that I am in favor of this because I'm looking at how many people I can get employed on this project. When we talk about affordable housing, we have individuals that come from Second Call who are from that community. I went to Audubon, I went to Dorsey. There are individuals who have homes now, who are buying homes. I want to tell you their names. It's Tiny Killer, Baby Shooter, Little One Punch. Worked on the PCL project in Council District 9, and these guys are now buying homes. They're working also in Inglewood right now at the Ram Stadium. We can get people employed, and these are the people who normally don't get hired because these are the ones who are left out of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Kinnard, G. Natalie Schumann.
Hello, Gary Kinnard with Crenshaw Chamber of Commerce. The Crenshaw Chamber of Commerce fully supports the Capri Capital Partners Group in their effort to redevelop the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. The Crenshaw community has suffered long enough from being overlooked by investors seeking to improve neighborhoods across the city of Los Angeles. It's been more than 50 years since investments of this magnitude have been targeted for our community. The business community has been stuck in neutral because there have been no new residential units to bring in new dollars to support higher and upgraded retail, dining, and professional services. Crenshaw Chamber encourages economic development and the investment of dollars in the Crenshaw community, and especially in and around the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, where the very lifeblood of the community exists. It is ludicrous for anyone to oppose investment in this community. For so many years, developers have bypassed Crenshaw to invest in other areas of our city, drawing dollars out of our community. This
Thank you very much.
community must embrace the desire to make the community better for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
G. Natalie Schumann, Malcolm Harris.
Good afternoon. My name is Natalie Schumann, and I'm speaking today on behalf of over 30,000 hospitality and restaurant workers represented by Unite Here Local 11 throughout Southern California and Arizona. We are proud to support the proposed redevelopment today. The district is in need of good jobs and hotels, and we're happy to see the project move forward with a commitment to treat workers with the dignity and respect that they deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Malcolm Harris, Carl Morgan, Christina Dixon. Malcolm Harris, Carl Morgan, Christina Dixon. No. Delshawn McLennan, Jason Green, Sherry Franklin. Romero Malvo, Ruth Sloan. Welcome.
Thank you. Sheree Franklin,
Urban Design Center. I'm working with the Leimert Park Village 2020 Vision Initiative and also to extend the Business Improvement District on Crenshaw. I live a block away from the mall. I want to talk solutions. This is what we need. We need investment. And what we have is an investor who's saying, we want to have local developers build. So I say, let's get together and decide what we're going to partner with them on and build some of the affordable housing. We can partner with them to do that. If we're concerned about who's going to be the tenants and the renters, everybody today needs to start working on bringing and developing the kind of quality tenants we need, not only in the mall, but in Leimert Park Village and along Crenshaw Corridor. That's a proactive way that we can approach this. And secondly, we're not displacing housing. We're adding quality housing so that more people can not only have homes for their relatives and downsizing, but also ability for us to make sure that we can preserve the existing housing by allowing new families to move into those housing. Thank you.
Carl Morgan, Chair of the Neighborhood Council, Empowerment Congress West Area Neighborhood Development Council. On December 19, 2016, the Empowerment Congress West Area Neighborhood Development Council Board of Directors voted to support the project changes and, excuse me, project changes of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza Master Plan project with less density and the lower building heights limits presented by the applicants. We fully and wholeheartedly support the project. The former chair, Ms. Ellett, for some reason did not submit the community impact statement online. So we would respectfully like to submit the signed letter from the previous chair to go into the record.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Romero Malvo. I'm a resident of Leimert Park, and this is a community adjacent to the project. If I stand on the intersection of Martin Luther King and Crenshaw, when I look to the north, when I look to the east, what I see are acres and acres of vacant land that are underdeveloped or not developed at all. This catalytic project represents private investment in a neighborhood that really hasn't had it. There is a light rail that runs up and down Crenshaw. There are 3 stations. It's surrounded by single-family neighborhoods. Zoning and the plan says that we need to accommodate more residential density. This project would put the residential density where it belongs, in the regional center, not dispersed throughout all of the single-family neighborhoods that have historic value. I urge you to approve the project and let it move forward after so much time. We've been waiting for it.
Mickey Jackson, Kay, Kevin Arnold, Eva Aubrey.
Hello, Mickey Jackson with AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Housing is a Human Right, Healthy Housing Foundation. I feel a little inadequate today because we fell down in the costume department. We didn't have any T-shirts or box lunches or buses, so bear with us. We're doing our best. It isn't that development is always a bad idea, and all developments are not a bad idea, and it's a good idea to develop a good project in this location. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. And this is not a good project in this location. You do not need to help gentrification. You do not need to help displacement. It is galloping on its own. Bad enough. Let's not keep voting for it. When people say I can't do anything about gentrification and then I see them vote for it, I believe they can do something.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Aubrey. I'm from Vineyard Seniors, Claude Pepper Seniors, a friend of Jim Gilliam Seniors, West Adams Neighborhood Council, SLANK, South Los Angeles Alliances of Neighborhood Council, and also 5117 ARP. We meet right across the street from the shopping center. We like it. I'm for it. How many of you? Who's all with me? Will you stand up, please? We came here, we want your approval. We want your approval. It's been too long. I've lived here from 75 years, 1 month, 10 days, in about 8 hours.
Kevin Arnold, Khalifa Bey, Elmo Esprit, Ariel Salai, Ken Hunt, Joe Stringer.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Khalifa Bey, and I represent the LA South Chamber of Commerce. I am the ambassador for the Leimert Park Village area. I've heard a lot going back and forth. It's about solutions. From an economic development perspective, I think what's taking place here is a good thing. Are there things that need to be worked out? Of course. So I suggest we start focusing on the solutions, look at it from an economic development perspective, and let's rebuild the Crenshaw Corridor and South Los Angeles.
Hello, my name is Ariel Saleh, and I'm an organizer with the Democratic Socialists of America. And I have to ask, when will you stop bending over backwards for developers against the wishes of your constituents? When will you allow a community to have a say in its own future? You don't have to listen to the opposition of this project to know there's a housing affordability crisis in this city and that we need more, not less, affordable housing. Yet Primo defended the predominantly market rate luxury housing in this project at the Planning Commission last year, saying that South LA and Crenshaw have a disproportionately represented with affordable housing. This is in a neighborhood where 65% of renters are cost burdened and 86% of low-income tenants are cost burdened. That is galling, and you know it. To say there is a disproportionate amount of affordable housing reveals his true intention. It is not to provide opportunities for community members to lift themselves out of poverty. It is an opportunity to erase them and replace them with different residents entirely. Just earlier today, you discussed another South LA project that will destroy 8 RSO buildings for a luxury hotel. But sure, after 10,000 new Angelenos became homeless for the first time last year, you are planning more and more things that will indirectly displace people, and it is a shame, and you should be ashamed of yourselves.
I'm a member, Elmo Esther is my name. You will remember me. It's the Vineyard people that I'm with. But I've been in this city since 1924, so I know this city. I know that what is going on with City Hall, and we want to know about where the veterans are. Are they going to be housed in these developments? And the senior citizen. Now, let me tell you a few things. I've been in some of these seats up in front, too. I've been on the commission. So I know how games are being played. We see the developers are coming in. We see this in our community. We see that people like you are sitting up there who give the decision. I'm not sitting up there with words to put that I have to read. I lived it. Do your math on 1924 and find out how many years that is.
Thank you, sir.
Where are the good schools that you can move into the area? I can tell you one time where black people couldn't even go on the side of Main Street.
Thank you, sir.
They had a few
Your time is up,
Let me
sir.
say this, if I may. You guys can take care of our communities and help us a lot.
Great.
Do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Stringer, and I'm a member of ACE. ACE is a community organization with over 20,000 members throughout the state of California. I've been a resident of the 8th District for 45 years. I've been in the state of California for 59 years. I have a concern about the Crenshaw development, and that is we're discussing a development where we want to change the zoning. Yes, you want to change the zoning. That's why we have all these T-shirts here. They was gave a buck, a breakfast, and a dinner and put on a bus, bought to City Hall, and said, show your action. Half of them don't even know what they're here for. And we need to stop trying to fool them, because that's what's being did. I hate to see my people be fooled like you're being fooled. Wise up. Wise up. Wise up. Wise up. That's all you need to do. Wise up, stand up, and straighten them up. Thank you.
Ron Miller, Tisha Green, John Gonzalez, Bob Blumenfield.
Good afternoon. My name's Ken Hunt, and I'd like to start off by thanking the council for allowing me to speak here today. How about now? We any better now, guys? Sorry about that. My name's Ken Hunt, and I'd like to start off by thanking the council for allowing me to speak here today. I'm with the International Union of Operating Engineers, and we represent over 18,000 hardworking men and women of Southern California, of all races, religions, and creeds and colors. We all know that there's a shortage of housing here in Southern California, and this project would generate over 950 residential units, along with some much-needed retail and restaurant, that would create some long-term jobs for the citizens of the Crenshaw, Baldwin Hills community. This project would also generate hundreds of good-paying jobs that are only temporary, but in the construction phase, they're good-paying jobs that have privatized health care and a privatized pension, many of which would go to the local community members. And that's why the International Union of Operating Engineers is in support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the Planning and Land Use Management Committee. My name is Tisha Green, and I represent the Baldwin Hills Estates Homeowners Association. I'm the chair of the Landing and Plan Use Committee for our HOA, and in the absence of our president today, I'd like to read into the record a letter that I'd like to submit. I think we submitted it last night to your committee. The Baldwin Hills Estates Homeowners Association would like to formally withdraw our previous submitted community impact statement dated July 10th, 2017. From the above referenced case file. The applicant has responded to the comment letter, and such responses to the comment letter have satisfactorily addressed the comments therein. Baldwin Hills Estates HOA is pleased to now express our full and unqualified support of this project and the related approvals. We are enthusiastic about this long-awaited redevelopment, the many amenities it will provide for our members and other area residents, and local economic reinvestment in general. And we eagerly welcome the new retail and restaurants contemplated by in the shopping center. We're eager to support this good neighbor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm John Gonzalez, also a Baldwin Hills Estates resident and a representative of the Baldwin Hills Estates HOA. After years of community presentations and meetings with Capri, we believe this project strikes a balance between what's practically viable and what our community wants. Unlike many projects, this is not an all-residential project, but rather also provides public space, mobility, and commercial space, which provide not just patronage opportunities, which we currently must travel for, but it also will provide employment opportunities, tax base, and infrastructure, all via capital investment, which our area struggles to attract. The housing component provides for some affordable housing, but even the market rate housing contributes to resolve a shortage of supply. Displacement is an issue, but better dealt with through strong tenants' rights law, not by putting a halt to area investment and modernization. As a resident and on behalf of Baldwin Hills Estates HOA, I encourage you to approve this project and also to continue progress on the proposed area traffic study. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Miller, Jorge Castaneda, Akeisha Lester Spinner.
Good afternoon. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the L.A. Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council. We represent 140,000 hardworking men and women in L.A. and Orange County, many thousands that live right in around this project. We support this project wholeheartedly. We have negotiated a fair project labor agreement with local hire, preference for veterans, and a commitment for training and entry into world-class apprenticeship programs that lead to good middle-class jobs that allow these members to have a mortgage, to send their kids to university, be productive members of society. None of that happens without all the community working together, and we work with community partners such as Flint Ridge Center, Maxine Waters Worksource Center, Second Call, Winter, Southwest College, Trade Tech College, and the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. We are putting hardworking men and women from the community to work, and we're going to continue to do this on various projects in South LA. Please support this project. Thank you.
Jorge Castañeda with Coalition to Preserve LA, also a member of Los Angeles Tenants Union. Los Angeles' gentrification binge has attracted investors and developers who've converted thousands of affordable rental units to luxury condos and bulldozed family housing to build mostly one-bedroom luxury market-rate units. What these folks need to understand that on the side of this that are failing to grasp is that this is not an either-or fallacy. We can come up with a smart development. This is not it. 100 affordable housing units will not be enough to replace the 65,000 folks that are in danger of being displaced. That is simple mathematics. In 2016, Zillow noted very high, quote, very high demand at the low end of the LA market is being met with more supply at the high end, an imbalance that would only contribute to the growing affordability concerns for all renters. Please take this back to committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Shawna Robinson, Diane Robertson, Denise Edwards.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Nikisha Lester Spinner, and I'm actually a local resident of Baldwin Hill/Crenshaw. From a business perspective, Capri's development will be fantastic for South LA. It establishes the Baldwin Hills/Crenshaw area as one of those that fulfills the needs of the residents, everything from working to eating to shopping. The development would also create thousands of jobs and provide tax revenue for the city. South LA has been overlooked by investors for far too long, and Capri's development will change that. Importantly, the plan also creates a walkable community with acres of open space, lush, beautiful landscaping. I'm excited by the potential of this project and Capri's belief in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shawna Robinson. I own Total Woman inside of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza. If Capri was not about giving small businesses and people of color an opportunity, I wouldn't be here. I literally employ dozens and dozens of women, and I'd love to be able to do it for many more years to come. They're fundamental to our success, and having a walkable, accessible, lovely retail outlet would just be very helpful and help our entire brand and mall. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Diane Robertson, and I am here in full support of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza Master Plan. I'm a lawyer at CBS Television Studios and a resident and an active community member in Leimert Park. I love my community for its rich culture, history, and character, and I believe Baldwin Hills Crenshaw is an integral part of what makes it so special. Recently, I had the honor to speak on a panel at the mall on the topic of gender equality and women's economic empowerment. That is just one example of the high-quality events that Capri hosts at the mall. Other beloved community programs have already been mentioned, such as the Pan-African Film Festival and the Leimert Park Village Book Fair. I am extremely optimistic that, given the chance, Capri will transform the lots surrounding the mall into a vibrant space with needed housing, retail, restaurants, office space, and even a hotel. I believe that, given the opportunity, they will continue their commitment to serve the community with new amenities as well as provide unique cultural value and experience. I implore you to support this project for the betterment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I called Denise Edwards, right? Or Denise Edwards, Mary Joan Darkus, Tracy Mitchell. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Soam Capilla. I'm an actress that moved to Baldwin Hills because it was a cultural community.
What was your name, ma'am?
Soam Capilla. I actually have to leave, but I'm on. No.
We haven't called your name. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm just going through how people signed up here. Sorry about that. Tracy Mitchell, Kim Williams. I'm sorry. Okay, called the three right now. Welcome.
It sounds like you said Darkus, did
Yes.
you? Oh, Darks. Darks.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Jones Darks, and I'm a 30-year resident of the Crenshaw area. I'm pleased to be here today to support this project. As the owner of such a project, an anchor in this area, Capri has proven to be a trusted community partner. Not only have they poured significant investment into South LA when others would not come, they have also invested in the residents of the area by focusing on safety and security at the mall, as well as hosting community concerts, job fairs, health fairs, and so much more. I fully support this project. I've seen a few people who are in orange shirts that were sitting when we asked for support. I really would like for everybody who is in support in our orange shirts to please stand at this time. Okay. Thank you. I just don't want to have to go to the Grove to shop, to eat at outdoor restaurants, go to the movies. We want to do these things in our own communities. Please let this project go. I'm really excited about having a hotel nearby where my family can stay when they come to town, not to have to drive 30 minutes to visit them at a hotel. Thank you.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, honorable chairpersons, council members. My name is Kim Williams. I'm a local resident of the Crenshaw corridor. I am pleased to be here to support the Baldwin Hill Crenshaw Plaza master plan. Capri has worked closely with dozens of community groups and local residents to keep them informed and share details about the shared vision of the future. As a result, the community has tremendous support for this project. In fact, more than 7,800 residents have signed as support. Today, we are proud to submit community letters of more than 1,200 signatures and petition of more than 6,500 signatures. On behalf of the 7,800 community members, we urge you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Mitchell, Kim Williams. No, sir. Okay. Sorry, that was here twice. Tracy Mitchell. And yeah. Cookie Anderson. Debbie White. Brad Johnson.
Good afternoon. I am Cookie Anderson. I've been living in the Crenshaw Manor area for 27 years. And I do support the Baldwin Hill Crenshaw Plaza plan. As far as housing, I own and property manager in the Baldwin Hill Village area, so I know the area. My tenants are doing fine. You know, there's about 5,000 units already there. Bringing this area, bringing new residents to the area, and also hotels would be nice. Everyone said everything I wanted to say. When my family comes from Washington, D.C., they can stay in the hotel. Please support this, and let's get this started. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Debbie White, and I am the Zumba instructor. I teach Zumba class at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, and it's part of their free fitness program called Be Fit. For years, I've seen Capri, the owner of the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza, go above and beyond for our neighborhood. Capri is committed to providing residents of the Crenshaw corridor with health and wellness resources, including fitness classes at no cost to the residents, job fairs, health screenings, and more. The Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza Master Plan doubles down on this commitment to healthy living. The plan transforms acres of the parking lots into viable livable space, complete with walking paths and green spaces for community to gather. The project also adds a number of fantastic uses for the site: new housing, retail, and a hotel that will serve the community to create a lively center for the Crenshaw corridor. Please join me in supporting this fantastic project.
Thank you. Brad Johnson. Ramiro Arvizu, Mark Gori, and last but not least, and the person who wanted to get out here the fastest, Sam Kapila.
Good afternoon, council members. I want to talk to you quickly about vision, trust, capital, and support. I'm a 40-year veteran in the restaurant business. Rick Caruso has never called me. He has multiple developments around the city. Who called me? Ken Lombard, Quentin Primo. They put me in business. They trusted me with their capital, and they've continued to support us when the challenges that arise, as they always do in operating businesses, confronted us, and they made accommodations to allow us to continue to be there. I'm in full support of this development. I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity for the community to thrive, the jobs, the environment, and I don't think you would be in better hands than Quentin Primo and Capri. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, honorable council members. My name is Reverend Mark Gorey. I'm the assistant pastor of Morningside United Church of Christ, and I am a local resident in the Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw area since 1959-1960. Like many here today, I care deeply about making the improvements in our community and making them responsible and making them the best possible. This is why I support the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Master Plan and its improvements, the development that is very closely aligned with the stated goals of our community plan. This plan will bring a tremendous amount of activity to our community and to our commercial corridor. The outdoor retail area and new restaurants will provide residents with new opportunities to eat and shop, and it will have the impact that it needs for our visitors to see our beautiful community. Please support this plan, please support our community, and it will improve the city of Los Angeles.
Welcome. Either one.
Hi, I'm Sam Kapila. I moved to Baldwin Hills just under a couple of years ago from England because it was much like the cultural community where I came from back home. When my family comes to visit, I don't take them to Macy's, I take them to Leimert Park Village because it's full of history, culture. I also take my singing classes there, and I frequently visit the Caribbean restaurants there on a weekly basis. What saddens me, though, is that this part of Crenshaw is not as supported as the other parts, so I hope that whatever happens, and I do support the new development, that this area of local businesses and culture will be supported. Our rent has already increased dramatically with the development, and I know that it's going to continue to increase, so I just hope that you will raise the percentage of affordable homes within the planning that's going to happen, because I don't think 100 homes is enough for the community that lives there. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ramiro Arvizu. As the owner of Mexicano Restaurant, a tenant of Baldwin Hills, Crenshaw, for the past 3 years, I am here today to support the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza Master Plan. This project will strengthen the role of Baldwin Hills as a dynamic social and economic hub of the Crenshaw corridor for years to come. The proposed master plan will add a pedestrian-friendly retail village, condominiums, apartments, offices, and a hotel to the site. All of these will drive business to the tenants like us and attract more people to the area. This is one-of-a-kind opportunity to create the kind of vibrant development that South Los Angeles sorely lacks. The project will create a welcoming, pedestrian-friendly atmosphere by increasing the walkability of the site and connecting the retail to the incoming metro stop. I am here to support that 100%. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the public speaking component of this. I'll turn this over to Councilmember Marquis Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much. I have a couple questions for staff. They're very minor questions unless they're questions or comments from my colleagues? Mr. Price, Mr. Blumenfeld, no? Just a couple points of clarification. This project, as it's presented to us today, does it remove any existing unit of housing according to the plans that you have in front of you and replace it with another kind of use?
Good afternoon, council members. As stated in Planning Department's response to the appeal points raised, the project site does not have any existing on-site residents or on-site housing. That being said, the issue as to displacement was analyzed in accordance with CEQA, which asks whether or not any physical changes will result from the project that would result in the need to construct replacement housing as a result of the significant or substantial loss of housing or on-site residents. To that end, we concluded, and in accordance with CEQA, the analysis was very clear that because there are no existing housing units or residents, no direct displacement would occur. The second issue that was raised was the issue as to indirect displacement. The way that CEQA works is the methodology is first to determine if there's a physical impact related to housing as a result of the project, and if so, you also have to analyze the secondary effects. In this instance, the first measure was not met because, of course, there's no housing or on-site residences, and therefore there would be no direct displacement.
Second, a follow-up question to that. So for projects of this size, and there have been a handful in front of us on this committee since the time I've been here, but you've been at this longer than I have. For projects of this size, do you take any steps that you haven't taken in order to analyze the potential for displacement in the surrounding neighborhoods?
As it relates to CEQA, there's no requirement by the state's mandate in order to do so if there's no measurement of the first test, which is if the direct displacement as a result of the project. Secondarily to that, CEQA does ask that if there is a direct physical effect as a result of the first test, then you also have to do that secondary test. We don't have an instance for a project of this scale where that was the case. We have the City Market project, we have the Reef. All of those cases did not have any on-site residences or housing necessitating the replacement of housing elsewhere.
Are there steps that you took with other projects of this size to analyze that, notwithstanding the fact that, if I understand you correctly, CEQA doesn't require that? Are there tests that other projects went through that this one did not? I just want to make sure this is not being given any special consideration.
To my knowledge, and of course I only oversee a certain number of cases for the department, but to my knowledge there isn't a test, and a lot of that is what the methodology would be. And so far as the city hasn't adopted a methodology by which we could measure the indirect displacement on a citywide scale. So if you wanted to measure one project one way, that methodology would have to be applied across the city.
Right. So what your analysis of this is consistent with what you've done everywhere else in the city. Got it. Thank you. And then there are lots and lots of documents, and we saw more documents today. Is there anywhere in the documents that you can confirm that rent on the for rent units has been set, and if so, what that amount is?
We have not been given any indication, and there's nothing in the city's consideration of the project that indicated what the rent levels would be. And that's also to speak to the fact that the applicant requested a 20-year development agreement, and so there is no certainty as when these units would be built. And obviously it would be speculative at this point to determine what those income levels would be. That being said, there are affordable housing units being restricted on this project, and those would be subject to the rules and regulations for set aside restricted affordable under the Housing and Community Investment Department for the city.
Thank you. That concludes my questions. I want to just begin a few comments by thanking everybody who came out today. I want to thank the staff. I know you all have been at this for several years. The various community organizations that are here, the Homeowners Association, the community-based organizations, the neighborhood groups, the folks at Capri, all of the appellants who I've worked with over the years on a variety of projects. I want to call out Jason Lombard, especially, who I think has been doing community meetings on this development most of his adult life. You've been at it for a while. Again, I just want to thank everybody who's helped facilitate the process and who's been a part of the process and push. I think what's important that was entered in the record today is that folks in our community love our community, so much so that they can figure out how to get to the ballot box and get their vote in and show up to fight hard for our community and to do it in a passionate way. I think that deserves a bigger round of applause. Our community has a long history of being able to do several things at once, but the passion that you see here and the energy that you see here and the willingness to sit through this hearing on a development that we've frankly been waiting on for about 10 or 12 years is a big deal, and lest anyone be fooled, the passion and commitment to South Los Angeles by our community runs deep, and we will not be pushed over or pushed out easily and without a fight. To the appellants especially, I happen to disagree with your conclusions. I happen to disagree with some of your assumptions, but I do not disagree at all with your passion and concern about what's happening to our folks in this city and in this community. I think that as we move forward, and my expectation is that we'll move forward with this project, I want to join all of you in beginning to figure this question out, because even if you don't put a single unit of housing at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, rents in the area will continue to go up. That's just a fact. That's the world we live in today. And no government entity is in the business of seizing land and building 100% subsidized housing developments at 43 acres. That's just not the reality we live in. That being said, I want to make sure the record reflects that the 8th Council District, which encompasses a good portion of the African American community along with the 9th and the 10th districts, we have permitted and funded more affordable housing units than any other district in the city by a long shot. This project, even at its size, will still leave us with more government-subsidized, covenanted affordable housing units in production in the 8th District than market-rate units, even with the 850 units that we'll see here. And so our community is doing its fair share to provide affordable housing stock for the city of Los Angeles and for our neighbors and our children as they matriculate and start their own households. This project gives us much needed balance, frankly. We have seen years and years and years of outright investment apartheid in South Los Angeles. And we're grateful that this project will begin to break that and to show that you can invest, you can do it in a way that includes our community, and you can do it in a way that leaves everybody better off in the end. I have some language, City Attorney, that I need to amend one of the motions. We amend selected portions of the conditions of approval as follows. The local hire requirements for the project labor agreement in both construction and operation shall be increased from the goal of 25% to a commitment of 30% local hire, and a goal of 30% of all contracting construction utilizing a combination of small business enterprise, minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, and disabled veterans business enterprise. Additionally, we amend selected sections of the development agreement as follows. The qualifying maximum income levels for renting housing shall be adjusted from 5% of the units at 150 average median income to 80% AMI, and from 5% of the units at 50% of AMI to 60% AMI. The $300,000 in funds designated for the rehabilitation of the historic Sanchez adobe shall expand its scope of work to include basic repairs, and if the funds are not used within a year of issuance, it will remain in the CD8 Public Benefits Trust Fund to be used for other ongoing community-serving needs, and the $1.5 million designated for the tree trimming fund shall go instead to a fund set up by the council for tree trimming and other streetscape improvements. I therefore move that the adopted changes in the letters from the applicant's representative to the chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee, dated May 31st, 2018, be accepted by the city attorney and the Department of Planning. And that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Yes, Mr. Price.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if I can just chime in.
Go ahead, Mr. Price.
I just applaud this development. It's not easy. We've had similar challenges in CD9. Individuals feeling that building on unoccupied parking lots is going to result in displacement. That's just not the case. We have an abundance of affordable covenant properties in 8 and 9 and 10. We're trying to encourage more private sector development and development that is responsible and that is sensitive to the community. I think this is that kind of development. I applaud you, Councilman, on your leadership, working with staff, and working with the developer, who was certainly sensitive and wise enough to know that this has to be a collaborative effort. So I applaud the work that's been done by your staff, by our planning department, and more importantly, from the advocates, those who showed up today, expressing their support or disappointment or opposition, but showing up to express your concerns, and I think that makes this a much better project. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Price. So a motion's been made. We'll incorporate to move forward with the recommendations by Mr. Harris Dawson. We'll second that. And any objections to that motion as amended by Councilmember Harris Dawson? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Next item. Yes, sir.
Councilman, the appeals are being denied for number 8. On number 9, the city attorney will be instructed to prepare the DA as amended by Councilman Harris Dawson's motion. And you will also approve the EIR, the mitigation monitoring program, and the mitigation measures, and the related CEQA findings.
Yes.
If I can just clarify, it's denial of the appeals in part and approval in part to allow the modifications to the queue conditions as stated on the record by the councilman on the entitlement case.
You don't need to deny.
You don't
need to grant the appeals in part. So it's a denial. If the council committee so wishes, you can deny the appeals and make the changes as recommended by the applicant as well as the council member.
Okay, the motion is as stated by Mr. Mejia, and which effectuates Councilmember Harris Dawson's suggested motion.
Yes.
Okay. Any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you very much. Next item, Mr. Mejia.
The next item would be item 11. I don't know if you already considered this item. It's a draft ordinance relative to a vesting zone change to demolish a warehouse used in CD 14. Did we consider that item previously or no?
Which one?
Item 11.
That's the item we're on.
Okay.
You call that to order? Yeah, we'll call that to order.
Okay.
Item 11, we're calling that to order. And if staff could make a brief presentation, please.
Good afternoon, council members. For the committee today is the vesting zone change and height district change from M31 RIO to TQ M32D RIO. to allow for an increase in FAR from 1.5 to 1 to 3 to 1, consistent with footnote 6 of the Central City North Community Plan. Staff would like to provide a brief overview of the timeline of the case. City Planning Commission approved site plan review for the project and recommended approval of the vesting zone change and height district change adopted the mitigated negative declaration at its meeting on November 10, 2016. The decision letter was issued on December 14, 2016. Subsequent to CPC approval, no appeals were filed. The project's approval included an environmental mitigation measure that required that a soil remediation plan be developed and implemented to excavate and remove impacted soils prior to building construction. Through the city and state's existing regulatory requirements, the applicant is required to remediate the site prior to obtaining building permits. Subsequent to the item being scheduled before Plum, concerns were raised regarding hazardous materials at the site. To further address those concerns, the applicant has worked in consultation with the Council Office, the City Planning Department, and the California Department of Toxic Substances Control, DTSC, to enter into a voluntary cleanup agreement with DTSC. The enforceable agreement allows DTSC to oversee the investigation and or remediation of any hazardous substances at or from the site. As a part of the voluntary cleanup agreement, on April 20th, 2018, DTSC issued an approval of a revised preliminary endangerment assessment equivalent additional site characterization work plan that was developed by the applicant's environmental consultant. The agreement ensures DTSC will remain actively involved in the remediation efforts in order to provide oversight and, if appropriate, to issue a site certification. While the applicant has already entered into the voluntary cleanup agreement with DTSC, planning staff would like to recommend that we add an additional condition to capture the agreement within the proposed queue conditions for the site. The condition would be consistent with the mitigation measures that were required for the applicant to remediate the site prior to building construction. And staff is available with any questions, or if you have any questions.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Let's go to public comment now, and start off with the applicant, Dale Goldsmith. Do you have 5 minutes, sir, to make your presentation?
I will try to make it briefer in light of the lateness of the hour. Good afternoon, honorable committee members. My name is Dale Goldsmith. I'm a partner with the law firm of Armbruster, Goldsmith & Delvac, representing the applicant. Here with me today is Tom Wolf, a principal of the applicant, and all of our technical team. I'd like to start by commending staff in a very thorough presentation. They've been excellent all along the way. I'd also like to call your attention to a letter that we submitted today that includes expert responses to a number of late comments on the mitigated negative declaration. Even though they were late, we thought that to provide the most complete record possible, we would provide those responses for your consideration. This site is zoned as is designated as heavy industrial under the Central City North Community Plan and is zoned M31-Rio. The uses permitted in that M3 zone are office and commercial uses, the same ones that are proposed by the project. The site is currently in Height District 1, which allows a 1.5 to 1 FAR. We're seeking a zone height district change to a 2D with a delimitation limiting the the FAR to 3 to 1. And footnote 6 of the community plan allows for this designation in Height District 1 that the development exceeding a floor area of 1.5 up to 3.1 may be permitted through a zone change, height district change process and environmental review, the exact same process this project has gone through. So it's appropriate and consistent with the community plan. As staff mentioned, the site is a former metal recycling facility and a scrapyard. There are low levels of contaminants in the soil, as one might expect from such a use. The site's soil conditions have been extensively studied and thoroughly analyzed in 6 expert studies and in the city's MND that was adopted by the Planning Commission. And that MND correctly concludes that impacts associated with that contamination would be less than significant. As staff mentioned, the MND includes a mitigation requirement that requires development of a soil remediation plan, and that will require removal of all impacted soils, any and all, prior to building permit for the project. And the plan also provides that any impacted soils that are removed will be disposed in an appropriate facility, and that soil excavation personnel must be licensed and trained to properly handle any contaminated soil. And this is a standard mitigation measure that the city has imposed on a number of other projects. In addition, as staff mentioned, the cleanup will be subject to strict regulatory requirements. And in addition, to provide an additional layer of assurance, the applicant has entered into a voluntary cleanup agreement with the DTSC. All testing and remediation will be under the DTSC supervision, and we're in full agreement with the Q condition that's proposed by staff to require that oversight, review, and compliance with all applicable DTSC requirements. Lowe has been working on this project since 2016, the applicant, and has had over a dozen meetings with key stakeholders, including LARABA, HCNC, DLANC, and the Arts District neighborhood and owners. DLANC, the neighborhood council with jurisdiction, has issued a approval letter and support letter, and I believe the president is here to speak today. Following concerns about environmental conditions, Lowe had an additional community meeting last fall, sent notices out to 200 people, and reiterated its commitment to fully and transparently clean up the site in compliance with not only DTSC requirements, but also city and all other applicable regulatory requirements. The project will provide a number of key project benefits, including redeveloping a former metal recycling and scrapyard into a mixed-use creative office building that's very well designed. It'll clean up the existing contaminants on the site to DTSC standards and under DTSC oversight. It will create a pedestrian environment along Violet Street where none exists currently because there's no sidewalk. A sidewalk will be constructed, street trees. There'll be ground floor commercial uses to activate the pedestrian experience, and those uses will have storefront glazing to provide some transparency. In addition, the office uses will help contribute to the ongoing revitalization of this area of the Arts District. It will maintain the Arts District as a job center by providing office space for tenants in the creative industries and within close proximity to existing and proposed amenities as well as housing. And it will generate a significant number of jobs on a currently underutilized site. Therefore, we respectfully request that you follow the City Planning Commission's recommendations and approve the subject zone change and Heights District change. I'm available for any questions and would appreciate the opportunity for a rebuttal should you so desire one. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Tom Wolf and Patty Berman, Kate Wittner. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Tom Wolf with Lowe. We're the owner and developer of the property, and I wanted to just let you know that I'm here to answer any questions that you may have that come up. I think Dale has covered quite a bit of our information. We're highly committed to the community. We've been active here in the Arts District, myself personally, for 24 years, and the company for over 30 years. And we're fully committed to the additional conditions we've subjected the property to in terms of the oversight by the California Department of Toxic Substance Control, and are eager to move forward with that process upon your review and approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Ms. Patty Berman.
Hello there. I know I get extra time on these, and considering the hour, I would ask you to not give it to me, please.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Patty Berman. I'm the president of the Downtown Neighborhood Council. We have heard this project. We did have some concerns about the way they were handling the screening of the parking lot, and because of that, they have changed it and done it in a way that we find incredibly acceptable. Other than that, let's look at it from the realistic standpoint. We need the hotel rooms. We need places like this built. They're building in an area that is not plumb yet, but they're going to bring it back and let other things happen there. So for our neighborhood, we consider it a really great idea, and we hope you would too. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Cale Bittner. I'm the COO, CFO of Iron Triangle Brewing in the Arts District. The Arts District has been really blessed with all the development and attention that's been happening, and we're very soon, hopefully, we'll be having a lot of new housing. We need jobs for those people as well, and this development will allow for office space, restaurant, retail, as well as the incredibly valuable asset of parking to be in there for people who are living in the neighborhood to also be able to work in the neighborhood. And if they live and work in the neighborhood, that's going to open up those parking spots for people in the evenings and nightlife, which will greatly help my business, which is already there. So I'm in full support of this project, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Gerald, John Hrovat, Arturo Gonzalez, Bill Christopher. Hello, Jonathan.
Hi, Councilmember. I'm a secretary of Los Angeles Downtown Arts District Space, and I'm a member of Affordable Housing for Artists, AHA, and I'll be give you the gift of brevity as well. This is a great project, has a great ground floor retail amenities. It's a good-looking project on the ground, and most of all, it provides 200 parking spaces, which will be very valuable for this particular area that can be activated in the evening for the community and for visitors to the community. So, big thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon. I'll be brief because you probably appreciate that. My name is John Rovat. I'm property owner at 1525 Industrial Street, and I've been active as a developer in this area, building industrial buildings and mixed-use live-work communities. As you know, the industrial base in this part of town has continued to erode, and this is exactly the kind of project that we need to help restore some of those jobs that have been.
Arturo Gonzalez, Denise Meraz, Charlie Carno, Shmuel Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Arturo Gonzalez, a community outreach specialist, and I support the LOW project. As part of LOW's community outreach process, they have participated in community meetings since 2016 and have received support for the proposed office and retail mixed-use development from DLANC, HCNC, and neighborhood property owners. LOW met again with La Raba, HCNC, DLANC, and Arts District neighborhood and community members. They sent notices to more than 200 residents and businesses and held an open community meeting last fall to discuss and answer any questions and confirm the commitment for any required cleanup. LOW was successful in communicating with the neighbors and community to bring the facts to light and to reassure cleanup, thus easing community concerns. I ask for your support today, as this development will bring hundreds of new jobs to the area and help small businesses as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Denise Meraz, and I'm here because I love the Arts District and appreciate its revitalization. But I believe we have to make sure we are both smart and transparent about the cleanup necessary to make sure people can safely work and live here. I thank Councilman Huizar and the applicant of the Violet Street project's efforts in making sure the state oversees the cleanup. However, I do urge the council to hold this vote, or at least make it contingent upon the state releasing a cleanup plan, just as the same was done for the nearby Art Mateo project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Charlie Carno, and I'm here representing Unite Here Local 11. I know our comments are also shared by Food and Water Watch and Sierra Club, which have also been active on this project. Before coming today, I was going to echo what Denise said. We really appreciate the council members' efforts and the applicant's efforts in subjecting the site to state oversight, and simply would ask that a plan be available, a remedial action work plan or no further action letter before a vote would take place. Let's just get through the process before having a vote. I do want to raise, though, a procedural issue, which is that we submitted a comment letter with expert testimony a year ago and only received answers to it in an 180-page document dump today. While we did submit a comment letter in response, it's basically impossible to respond in that amount of time. So we would ask, please, to withhold it until we've had a time to review those documents. There's been a year in which to respond.
Okay. Thank you. William Avellan, not here. Okay. So with that, let me ask the planning staff about the soil remediation plan. That's one of the conditions of approval. Can you describe again briefly when that would come back to us, how the state will communicate with us here locally?
Jojo Puswang, planning staff. Basically, DTSC would have to review the work plan that the applicant has submitted, and they would monitor any of the cleanup efforts that are underway there, and they may issue a site certification, basically to denote that the remediation is complete.
And does that would that be completed before any actual construction begins, or what's the timing on that?
That's correct. They would have to complete the cleanup before building permits could be issued by LADBS.
And get certified.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Given the testimony here today and given that soil contamination report will be prepared, as was the concern of community members and our office as well, at the time that we did plan check, we'll move to approve the project and any additional language that Mr. Mejia would like to propose.
None, Councilman.
Thank you very much. So with that, any objections to move this forward? Seeing none, so ordered. Thank you. Item number 14.
Item 14, Councilman, this is an appeal relative to the construction of a elder care facility in CD 11.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Chu. To the left of me is Courtney Shum. We're both from the Planning Department. The appeal before you is of the environmental clearance for a 40-foot tall elder care project in the Pacific Palisades Highlands area. In January of 2018, the zoning administrator issued a determination granting a coastal development permit and a site plan review and determining that the project is categorically exempt. The project was appealed by 2 people and presented before the West Los Angeles Area Planning Commission on April 18th of this year. The West LA commissioners denied the appeals and determined and sustained the decision of the zoning administrator and determined that the project was categorically exempt. The appellant has filed an appeal on the categorical exemption, stating the same points presented to the Planning Commission. They stated the project does not meet the requirements of the Class 32 categorical exemption because the project does not meet the objectives of the community plan, and that there would be cumulative effects and that there would be noise and traffic impacts. In response, the determination already responds to the appellant's points. The project does meet the requirements for a Class 32 categorical exemption per CEQA Guidelines 15332. The project is less than 5 acres, and both the site and the surrounding areas are predominantly urban. The project is consistent with the Brentwood Pacific Palisades Community Plan and zoning designations and has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species and would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, or air quality and can be served by all required utilities. The appellant has not submitted any documents showing that there would be a traffic impact or that there would be any noise or air quality impacts. And the project is not permitted. The project is a permitted use in the C1 zone. They observe the required transitional height regulations, and they are not deviating from any of the code regulations. There is no 30-foot height limit, as the appellant mentioned, since the community plan only states this for projects located in identified pedestrian-oriented areas. The project is a care facility and will provide care services, and a doctor will be provided on-site and will be required to comply with the state regulations for care facilities. In regards to exceptions of CEQA, the project does not fit into any of the exceptions. These exceptions include that there's no cumulative impacts, no significant effect. The project is not within any state scenic highway. The project site is not a hazardous waste site, and the project has no historical resource. In conclusion, staff recommends the committee deny the appeal and determine that the project is categorically exempt pursuant to Article 3, Section Class 32.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to public comment now. We have the appellant, who is not listed here. Let me see. Ronnie Schramm, or the representative, Kevin McDonald. And then we have, go ahead. Yes, sir. Your applicants. That's right, I'm sorry, yeah. Robert and Sandra Flick, Representative Christina Kropp. Are you here? Yeah, if you could. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon. This is my first experience at the council chambers. It's very impressive, and all that's going on today is quite so. My name is Robert Flick. I'm a resident of Pacific Palisades, have been for over the last 30 years. I'm in my 40th year of practice as a commercial real estate lawyer out of Stanford Law School. And I mention that because in my 40 years of representing developers, institutional investors, private investors, and so forth, I've not seen a less appropriate project for a neighborhood than we're experiencing here. We're not against, and I'm by myself today, but there are over 1,500 people who've signed opposition statements to this, and we're in parallel going to the Coastal Commission with 170 applicants appealing the CDP. So I presented a quick set of slides to you, basically 3 findings that I think failed in notwithstanding staff's assertion that everything's copacetic. The biggest, to me, biggest insult is the developer's assertion that this project is substantially surrounded by urban uses. That is the standard for Class 32 exemption. The 3 properties that together abut one another, 92% is city open space. This abuts a city, Santa Ynez City Park. It is immediately proximate to Topanga Canyon State Park. So what surrounds this property is 17.5 square miles of Topanga Park, and then also a very substantial city park. Also, there's another standard. There's no specific standard as to what substantially surrounded means, but there's a 75%, 25% test that's in a couple of statutes, and this property does not meet that. So I think that it insults the intelligence of the residents and this committee to make that assertion. You'll see in my slides, sorry I couldn't do color, but you'll see the project site is in the far upper right of the photo. That's the, I think, 3rd slide. And you'll see the massive amount of open space that does actually surround it. Project is also not consistent with the community plan. Lots of fails there. A project like this is supposed to be within walking distance of community facilities, healthcare, and so forth. None to be found within miles of the project. There's no public transportation that's close. A developer said, we'll provide buses or vans or what have you. I don't believe that's a project condition. Also, it's incompatible with the neighborhood. It's 4 stories, 64,000 square feet, 2 levels of underground parking, 57 feet high at its highest above Palisades Drive, FAR 1.5. That's basically triple what else is in the vicinity. The developer will say, well, there are projects that are proximate that are the same height. Of course, they sit up on hillsides, so they're not comparable. And you'll see different renderings, a lot of spin. I'm sure you hear a lot of spin from the developer, but essentially this project is a 24/7 hospital-like facility that they want to drop in the middle of a quiet residential area and parkland location. So also the project has significant impacts and unique aspects. In the record, there is a report, expert report from Wilson's Geosoils, which ought to scare you into sending this back for reconsideration. The report says that there's no evidence that fill on the site was properly certified, so they're going to have to excavate, they say at a minimum, almost 20,000 cubic yards of soil. We actually think it's going to be substantially more by the time they get in there and see what's going on. Also, the Geosoils report talks about things like daylight bedding. There are lots of technical issues with this site. The Geosoils consultant that prepared the report that is in the record recommended substantial additional characterization, investigation, and review of the site. So I will sum up and just say that this project, in my view and in the view of many others, does not qualify for an exemption from meaningful review under CEQA, and it should be sent back for further consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So now we'll hear from the applicant, Kevin McDonald, the representative.
We are members of the Plum Committee. Good afternoon. My name is Kevin McDonald. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Jeffer, Mangles, Butler, and Mitchell. We represent the owner and applicant, the Schramm family, and Palisades Drive LP. I think staff adequately went through all the points that qualify the project for a Class 32 categorical exemption, so I'm not going to repeat them. He also went through the exceptions, both of which are the burden of the appellant to prove, number one, that staff and, in this case, the Area Planning Commission erred in sustaining the staff's determination that the Class 32 categorical exemption is appropriate, as well as showing that there are is at least one exception to the general rule of categorical exemptions, and they have failed to do that on all points. So rather than repeat what staff has done on all these points, I think he went down the 5 criteria for the requirements of the Class 32. He went down through every single general exception and stated for the record that they don't apply. I submitted a written correspondence dated yesterday that is included in the administrative record that hits each and every one of these points in detail. So I will just concentrate on the couple of points that the appellant just made. Number one, he asserts that the project is not consistent with the general plan. And of course, in their papers, both written as submitted in this record and as presented at the previous hearings, they simply have chosen certain policy issues that appear in the Brentwood Pacific Palisades Community Plan that simply do not apply. Staff mentioned the one at 30 feet. It doesn't apply here because we're not in a pedestrian-oriented zone. That's just one example. They've listed about 6 or 7. They all fail for the same reason. Also, they continue to assert that the development is not substantially surrounded by urban uses. One of the requirements for the Class 32 is that it be located on a lot less than 5 acres in total area, within city limits, and substantially surrounded by urban uses. This project is located smack in the middle of the Highlands community that has been established in this area for decades. It's bound at the north by multifamily residential, at the east by multifamily residential, at the south by a commercial development and the only other commercial zone in the Highlands. At the west is a open space zone, and immediately west of that is another single-family residential development. So to picture this as something that is somehow surrounded by over 90% of undeveloped land is simply false. And for that reason, as well as the others, this appeal must fail. They have the burden to demonstrate where the city has erred. And this is simply a repeat of their earlier failed appeal to the West Los Angeles Area Planning Commission, where in its deliberations, they spent significant time. In fact, they mentioned to us at that hearing that this was the most highly attended hearing that has ever been attended at the West LA Area Planning Commission. So it is well vetted. They heard from probably more supporters than they heard from people against it. And they deliberated specifically over these issues and at some length over the urban infill development categorical exemption, and they found that this to be an urban area and that the Class 32 categorical exemption is appropriate. And that is all I have unless you have some questions.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Blumenberg, Len Nguyen, Aldis Topple. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Richard Blumenberg, and I'm speaking as a private citizen, but it's just for your information. I'm president of the Pacific Palisades Civic League. I'm an architect, and I'm also chair-elect of the Chamber of Commerce. I urge you to reject the appeal of this project and to affirm the Planning Commission's rejection of the appeal of the zoning administrator's determination for the project. The proposed elder care facility is allowed by right, and its size and massing complies with local code. The Highlands is a highly developed area with many structures exceeding the size of the proposed project. Previously, permitted projects were allowed to be built adjacent to undeveloped land, and the zoning was established, which set a precedent for what could be built in the Highlands. The appellant cannot have it both ways. You cannot say the project could not be allowed when others who are allowed to build in this area.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Len Nguyen. Len, last name Nguyen, and I'm planning deputy for Councilmember Bonin. The project before Plum today will provide a much-needed community benefit with convenient local residential care for seniors, allowing them to stay in the community and close to family. The project has been thoughtfully designed in compliance with the Brentwood Pacific Palisades Community Plan by providing a transition between the existing commercial and adjacent residential uses that surround the property on 3 of 4 sides. The use of the categorical exemption is appropriate as there are existing urban uses that surround the subject property on 3 of 4 sides. Additionally, the Pacific Palisades Community Council did find the proposed elder care use to be appropriate for the C1 zone property. As such, Councilmember Bonin supports the project and respectfully requests denial of the appeal before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Haldis Topol, not here. Susan Payne.
I'm currently the president of the Palisades Chamber of Commerce, and my term will end. And our board of directors voted unanimously from the beginning. And the correct use of the property, it's a much-needed facility in the Palisades. And as I'd like to look to find senior housing for my mother, type of housing, we need it in every community because obviously I think it's will be much welcomed by our community at large, and that this project is code compliant. And
Thank you very much. Well, thank you. Any questions or comments? Committee members? Okay. Given the testimony that's before us and the West LA's APC's decision that was thoroughly vetted there as well with no additional information, we'll move to deny the appeals and sustain the West LA's Area Planning Commission decision. Any objection? Seeing none, so ordered. Next item, item 15, please.
Item 15, Councilman, this is a report from the Board of Building and Safety Commissioners. What's before you is a haul route for the demolition of an existing home and the construction of a new structure in CD5. And the appeal by the appellant.
Go right ahead.
Dina Okinawa Building and Safety. This application was heard on May 8th at the Board of Building and Safety Commission hearing. The Building and Safety Commission adopted the staff recommendation as board action for the export of 3,000 cubic yards of earth with 13 specific conditions imposed on the haul route and found the project categorically exempt pursuant to the notice of exemptions prepared by the Department of City Planning. I'm available to answer any questions with regards to the haul route, and Jason from City Planning is available to answer any questions with regards to the categorical exemption. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to public comment now and go to the appellant, Paul Rohrer and Catherine Lawmeyer Rohrer. Welcome. Not here? Not here. Okay. Daniel Friedman.
Good afternoon, good evening, Chair Weezar, members of the Plum Committee. I represent the property owners, the Osadons, who are being subjected to this unjustified appeal. They are here, for the record. The Osadons are here. They're going to not speak because I know we got to move, and some people need a vote, including myself. But we appreciate you denying this appeal. And I will submit some correspondence that we filed and submitted via email yesterday. So I'm going to conclude quickly. If you have any questions, if you would like any specific issues addressed, otherwise, given the appellant's failure to appear and the record, I don't think there's any reason not to deny this appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do the owners wish to speak? Shally Osadon, Avi Osadon? Yes, no?
They'll save you the time if,
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Hugo Abrego? Same?
Same.
Okay, so given one of the rules of thumb here is that if you're going to appeal, might as well show up, right? So we'll move to deny the appeals and sustain the determination of the board and Board of Building and Safety on this item.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Who's speaking? Oh, there you
clerk.
go. Okay.
Are there some members in the back?
yes, no. Mr. Price has left, and so has Mr. Englander. So we have the 3 other council members here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that clarification. So we'll move to deny an item 15. Any objections? Seeing none, so ordered. Okay. Item number 16. Thank you, Mr. Friedman.
Item 16, Councilman, again, a haul route. This is an appeal by David Shapiro. Property is located in CD4.
Okay. Staff?
Dean Elkinawi Building and Safety. This application was also heard on the May 8th hearing. It was approved on consent. The Board of Building and Safety adopted the staff recommendation as board action with 14 specific conditions imposed on the haul route and found the project categorically exempt. Again, I'm available to answer any questions, and so is Jason from City Planning.
Okay. We'll go to public comment now and go to the appellant, David Shapiro.
Actually, the appellant's representative, Jamie Hall.
Okay.
My name is Jamie Hall. I'm a land use and environmental attorney with Channel Law Group. I want to work you through a couple of reasons, or many reasons actually, why you should grant the appeal. First, I want to start off with the fact, the actual finding that we're dealing with is whether or not the haul route will endanger the public health, safety, and welfare. So that's the issue before you, the precise legal question. And the reason why and the board erred was because they didn't realize that Linda Crest is a substandard hillside limited street, meaning the applicant does not have a continuous paved roadway of a minimum of 20 feet to the project site. The road is actually as narrow as 19 feet 3 inches, and this is at several sections of Linda Crest. And so the hillside ordinance was adopted in like the early 1990s, and one of the fundamental things that the hillside ordinance did was require a zoning administrator's determination for these narrow streets. So without knowing whether or not the applicant has any intention of applying for a zoning administrator's determination, this project has the likelihood to endanger the public health, safety, and welfare. And this also was a violation of the multiple approvals ordinance of the City of Los Angeles. It mandates that you have to apply for all required entitlements at the same time. I was just at a hearing before a zoning administrator this morning on Flicker Way where the exact thing happened. We determined after the fact that the road was substandard in width. Navigate LA is not perfect. There are mistakes. The city has acknowledged this. This is one of those mistakes. We would ask that you ask the Bureau of Engineering to do a field investigation to determine affirmatively that the road is substandard in width. And I would note that you need not make a decision today. This is not the last day to act, and I would ask you to send the Bureau of Engineering out there to go measure the road. The other issue is the categorical exemption. The city has proposed to grant an exemption from the environmental statute, both via Class 3 and a Class 32 exemption. I'll work you through very quickly why they're both not applicable. One, there's cumulative impacts. This project is literally right on the border of Beverly Hills. And the fundamental mistake that the city made here was that they didn't look at any of the projects in Beverly Hills. And so we have submitted in the record like 30 other projects in very close proximity that warrant an exception from the exemption due to cumulative impacts. And the other thing is that the project's located in the Santa Monica Mountain Zone, so it's located in a particularly sensitive environment. And the Santa Monica Mountains Act was adopted in 1979, and the legislature said that they hereby find and declare that the Santa Monica Mountain Zone is a unique and valuable economic, environmental, agricultural, scientific, educational, and recreational resource that provides essential relief from the urban environment. So just as a pure matter of law, this project is located in a particularly sensitive environment, which means it cannot be exempt from CEQA. It's also located in close proximity to habitat linkage blocks number 73 and 74. It is an undeveloped parcel where wildlife has been observed, and it provides critical habitat. The other issue is that it's not eligible for a Class 32 exemption because there are potentially significant noise impacts. And I've cited an M&D from November of 2015 at 8426 Briar Drive, where the city concluded that the mere export of 2,600 cubic yards of earth was a potentially significant impact on noise, and they adopted mitigation measure 12-20, where they limited the construction hours, and also they created a mitigation measure that said that you could not operate multiple pieces of equipment at the same time. So clearly there's a potentially significant noise impact as well, and that means that the Class 32 exemption cannot be used. Also, and I just found this out, directly adjacent to the parcel is the Beverly Hills Bridle Path. I encourage you to get out your phone right now and just Google it. It exists. It's a historic resource. It is the location of where they used to bring horses back before, cars. And this project has the potential to have a significant adverse effect on a historic resource, which means that it also cannot be exempt from CEQA. I submitted a lengthy letter. I'd like to provide physical copies as well. So we would urge you to grant the appeal and to require the applicant to go through the required environmental analysis and also to obtain a zoning administrator's determination to the substandard width of the road.
Thank you very much. Now we'll go to the applicant owner, Michael Manchel. Good afternoon.
Good evening. Michael Manchel, I own the property in question. I've lived immediately next house there, which I believe is my right. For items that were not, none of which were in the original letter that he submitted to the city appealing this. So I prepared comments on the items in the letter, but I'll also try and address 2 items that he brought up today. Environmentally, this is not wild land. It's boxed in on 3 sides by residential properties, including my own and Mr. Shapiro's. You objected to a report that I submitted claiming that I said there were the letter I submitted signed by a licensed landscape architect, trees on it, but only 4 are significant. One of those is protected. Of the larger trees, they are non-native. In the opinion of my landscape architect, again, not my opinion, this is valuable wildlife habitat, as the majority of the trees and shrubs on the site are to safety. That's why we're going through this process. That's why we have permits. That's why I hired a geologist. Report was positive. It was affirmative that it was safe to build here. He specifically stated, and I quote, steeper slopes along the downhill side of Linda Crest will be supported by the development. In other words, the project's not a threat to the safety, it's a benefit to the safety. The amount of dirt that I asked to move was a discrepancies, but it was within the 10% acceptable range as described to me by Representative of the... I'll skip some of my other points and try and address the comments that were raised today. The substandard street. This is a fully developed street. Every other lot has been built on. It's possible to build on this. Very hidden from the city, and I'm sure it was noted in all of our applicant range. Again, as I mentioned, this property is cut off from the Santa Monica open space of Franklin Park by 3, most significantly, Coldwater Canyon. And I also mentioned today, whatever it is, are not going to significantly impact the noise. The bridle path has been non-existent since long before I moved to the neighborhood. It belonged to the city, and the city maintained it, and I believe some 15, 20 years ago, the city granted the use of that land to the homeowners. There's no access to the bridle path except by the homeowners below the property, and my project doesn't impact that. So it has no extension. There was something made of documentation in Mr. Shapiro's letters, and that's the only thing that I sort of took, at all personally. He said that he requested the geological report and other relevant documents, and that I refused. Strictly speaking, that's not close to true. I had one conversation with him. I emailed him a couple times, and I sent him a rendering of the project to try and assuage his fears that he wouldn't be looking. I had no obligation to share documents, but I did. Had he asked for the geological report specifically, I would have shared that. I shared it with my other neighbor who also had some concerns about. He did at one point ask me, and I want to quote this for any and all plans, permits filed, diagrams, and other information. Well, that's a pretty long laundry list, everything that I have. So, especially when he told me counsel, I thought best not to give him everything, but I'm happy to work with him in any way I can, share documents, share images, certainly the geological report.
Steve Ellington, Valerie Slusser, Haley Slusser, Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Stephen Ellington. My property management company represents 1587 Linda Crest, and the owner of that house spends a lot of time outside of the United States. He asked me to not necessarily object to these actions, but just for better clarification regarding any erosion issues. It's a very steep hill along Linda Crest, as well as the truck route for said actions, and of course the time frame. He's also unclear on why the 3,200 square yards or cubic yards of earth needs to be removed. So it's more or less just clarification on what's going on and the impact of any future erosion that might occur because of that action. Thanks.
Thank you.
The decision of the Building and Safety Department because there's information that was considered in their decision, and this development doesn't meet the requirements for an exemption. When we bought our 3,000 square foot house 20 years ago, we never imagined one being built on this tiny lot beside us. Constructing a 38-foot retaining wall with an 1,850. Plans were modified since the original approval, and as of Friday, the retaining wall is at least going to be 55 feet high, and the amount of dirt. Should I keep going?
That's, yeah, if you could just wrap up your comments.
The amount of dirt to be hauled wasn't modified to reflect this new wall, and the amount of dirt, maximum amount of dirt allowed to be excavated from this size lot. In any event, the bond to the city doesn't reflect a higher
Great,
number of
thank
dirt
you
to
very
be
much.
hauled. Okay, and I'm going to submit this to.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Haley Slusser. I'm Valerie's daughter, so I live at 1583 Linda Crest Drive, right next to the lot. And my only concern when hearing about a possible proposed project there was just the environmental concerns. And I read the justification for the environmental exemption, and in it said that it was a vacant lot with it did not have any endangered, rare, or threatened species. And I share the backyard with that lot, and there are hawks and owls and opossums that I see going through there. And I know that birds are a transient species, but it is very important, I think, because these are endangered and threatened species, that there is some education as to what exact species of owls and hawks those are, to make sure that at least if there is development in that lot, that the new development makes area and space for this habitat that was there at some point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Shapiro. Can I speak for a minute?
No, did you sign up, sir?
I did, but my lawyer spoke for me before.
Oh, you're okay, we didn't call you, right? Okay, go right ahead. Okay.
Thank you very much. And I know I'm standing between you and going home, so I'll be very, very brief. But I just want to point out a couple of quick things. I first found out about this project along with my neighbors when we saw that this is a piece of property that's less than 10,000 square feet, and they're proposing to build a house that's over 8,400 square feet big. So 8,400 square foot house on a lot that's less than 10,000 square feet. Secondly, Mr. Manchel just acknowledged that the 3,200 square yards was approved, but the recommendation was for it to be less than that. So again, we have a lot of concerns. The notice we just received noted that 55 feet of mountain is going to be dug out. I don't know how that equals 3,200 square yards. The road is less than 20 feet. We measured it in probably 10 different places. It's certainly less than 20 feet, my understanding from our lawyer. Again, I just request that you review this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone here from Councilmember Rue's office?
Good afternoon, now evening, council members. My name is Emma Howard. I'm the Senior Planning Deputy for Councilmember Rue's office. We were prepared to speak on this item earlier today. However, we received additional materials around 1:30 p.m. today, and so at this time we'd like to ask for a continuance for at least a week to give us time to review the materials and to consult with the departments. Thank you.
Okay. So, yes, I understand that there was additional information submitted about 1:30 today.
Mr. Chair.
Yes?
Just to note, this is a time limit item.
Until when?
June 13th.
What's the day?
which is next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, okay.
So you would,
Can we hear it on Tuesday and then move it to Wednesday, have it heard in council on Wednesday?
yeah. So you
Okay.
continue it to next Tuesday's meeting.
Okay, we'll continue it to next Tuesday's meeting, and can the clerk make sure that we get a placeholder on the Wednesday council, full council? Okay.
Yes.
I am leaving. I'm going on vacation. I don't know if it's possible to hear this on Friday, but I have a pre-scheduled vacation. I will not be here at all next week. And I was just retained. I want everyone to know that, so I did not intentionally sandbag you by sending you a 20-page letter at 1:30. Literally, I was just retained. So
Yeah,
thank
okay,
you.
we can't change the schedule. That is our schedule that we're working with.
Sure,
So-
I understand. Thank you very much for consideration.
So we'll, just if the clerk could make sure we get a placeholder for Wednesday, and we'll continue this item on Tuesday till next Tuesday. And we have heard public testimony, so we'll close public comment. It's been satisfied. And this will give time to our committee members and Council District 4 and all those involved to review those materials. Okay. That'll be the order on that item. Public comment. Any public comment?
Councilman, did you,
Yes, sir.
Did you act on number 12?
Yes, I did. So you're the
You did?
second person that asks.
Okay.
So on
Thank you.
item 12, we moved that item.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. We approved that item without objection.
Okay.
Okay. But if you don't know, there's a problem.
I didn't know.
Because then I must have not did something right, because you always get things. So public comment, any public comment cards? Nobody there? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Go vote.
We can stay longer.
Bob moves to continue discussion. No, denied. You voted apparently, right? I had rushed after.